he's got an entourage, and he's got a touchdown.
The impossible dream of a play. Madden is on the field. He wants to know if it's real. They said yes. Get your big butt out of here.
Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free. It's picked up by Michigan State's Jalen Watts Jackson, and he scores on the last play of the game.
He's got it. End zone. Touchdown Titans. There are no flags on the field. It's a miracle.
What's going on? How's it going?
Oh, man, it's a great day. Glad I could be a guest host tonight.
Welcome to the Football Frame of Mind, man. We got a really special episode today. We're doing a deep dive breakdown on the Big Ten. So all the storylines, all the teams, where we think who's going to be where, who's going to win the conference, and who do we think are going to make the playoffs are all going to be going in today. But let's welcome Andrew. Andrew, where can they find you?
Oh, yeah, you can find me at College Sports Villains on Facebook, at USC Fan 981 on X and TikTok, and College Sports Villains 1 on YouTube.
Perfect. Check that out as well. Make sure to check out everybody else on the Villains Media Network across all major platforms, including YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and so on. A lot of really cool guys, a lot of really cool content going out there, whether you like football, whether you like baseball, basketball, sports, WWE, UFC, pretty much anything you could possibly think of, man. If you want it, we've got it. So I think he took the presentation with him because I don't see it up here anymore once he logged out.
He sure did.
Oh, my gosh.
That happens when you log out if you're the one that put it up, for sure.
He should have just left. Hold on, I'm going to call. Apologize to anybody watching, but we had some technical difficulties. Hey, Cam, when you got off, the whole presentation is gone.
You said what?
When you logged out of the studio, the whole entire presentation is not here anymore.
See, I knew it. Okay.
Yeah, even if you log back in and just stay off the camera, but yeah.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna download it and then I'm gonna send it to you.
Via Messenger?
No, I'm gonna just send it to you. So you can try to download it.
All good, man. Send it. We'll take a short commercial break. Sorry for the Yeah, not a problem, Cam. All right, appreciate it. All right, so we're going to take a short commercial break. Sorry about that, guys. Apologize for the inconvenience. We just had some minor technical difficulties. Enjoy the commercial, and we'll be back shortly. If I could actually commercial. Oh, there we go. we are good to go. Sorry about that, guys. Let me just remove this from the screen for a second. We are back, although minor difficulties, a little freaked out for a second, but we are good to go, man. Coming back from our commercial break, we're going to welcome on our special guest, man. Welcome, Sam from 609 Sports. Give him a really good front. Hey, how's it going, man?
What's going on, guys?
How we doing today?
Oh, we're doing just lovely.
Awesome. Where, before I go anywhere, I want to get kind of into your stuff, man. Like, where can people find you? Like what platforms can they find you on? I'm going to put that logo on the screen, too.
You can find us at 609 Sports Talk here on Facebook, over on Spotify, and you can find us on YouTube at 609 Sports.
Awesome. Let me just get that logo. Oh, my gosh, man. What happened with all this stuff? Nothing wants to work for me. This is a freaking shit show. There we go. All right. And if you guys want to make sure you check him out, 609 Sports Talks across Facebook, across Spotify, especially if you like the audio stuff, I really like that. And check him out on YouTube, man. Some really great content. Don't cease to follow, like, and subscribe. Cool deal. So, let's get started, shall we, fellas? We're breaking down the Big Ten. First of all, before we go any further, oh my gosh, this thing always starts on its own. So the percentage for the YouTube channel today, not subscribed, we're at 83%. Subscribed about 16.5%, man. You guys got to get it up, man. We were trying to get to 20% subscribed by Sunday. It's as easy as hitting subscribe. It's completely free. And if you really like the kind of content, make sure you hit the bell notification. So every time we go live like this, any shorts, game streams, unboxing videos, you'll be the first one to get the notification. So if you'd really like the content, man, we'd really appreciate a subscribe. So before we get into the college football, I think we have some minor NFL stuff. I'm looking at all this for the first time as well. All right, open discussion. So the Bengals and Shamar Stewart and Trey Hendrickson. For you guys that aren't aware of the situation, Shamar Stewart was a first-round pick of the Cincinnati Bengals, but due to some, I think, complication contract, I think it's certain like ways they, I don't know if it's like they hold out his money for specific reasons. I'll forget the exact thing, but pretty much he's holding out because the contract doesn't say exactly what he wants to say. And as usual, Cincinnati is being cheap and does not want to pay their Pro Bowl pass rusher as well. What do you guys think about this?
Well, what is Cincinnati really doing money wise? You know, and they've got to evaluate if it's worth it or not. I'm assuming holding out, you know, over millions of dollars is wild. Even if you were to re-enter the draft, which I've never even heard you could do that. There's no guarantee you would get into a better situation. So I don't know. That's wild to me.
What do you think, Sam?
I'm trying not to just die laughing because of what a joke I think the Cincinnati Bengals organization is. So essentially, what I've heard was there is some type of wording in his rookie contract that has not been in previous rookies, like their first-round pick last year, Amarius Mims, doesn't have the same language that Stewart's contract had, and that is what is making him essentially upset at the situation. Like you also said, I've never heard of somebody re-entering the draft. That is funny. But let's pile Stewart and Hendrickson together. This is the same Bengals team that lowballed Jesse Bates to where he ended up leaving. This is the same organization that played games with T. Higgins for, 2 years before finally paying him? Now, they can't even sign a rookie to a rookie contract right. I hope Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins were aware when they signed their contract. You're going to need to be the first NFL team to score 60 a game to win, because that's essentially what they're going to have to do. Now, there was a report today that Trey Hendrickson and them have reopened contract talk. That doesn't mean anything when it comes to the Cincinnati Bengals. So it just shows how out of touch the Bengals front office has been for at least the last 3 to 4 years. It's probably been longer, but it's just, you watch, just an example here. I'm an Eagles fan. you watched what a top-tier defense can do to Patrick Mahomes. Up until the Super Bowl, the only team that really showed that they could give the Chiefs some type of a run was the Bengals when Joe Burrow beat them in the playoffs in 2021. Don't you think you kind of have your core together on that side of the ball with Burrow and his receivers? I like Chase Brown a lot. Eagles actually have his brother on their team in City Brown, but don't you think now you should just try to pony up some money to the other side of the ball so you're not giving up 45 a game?
Yeah, I mean, that's a valid point. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, everybody's going to vary on this. Personally, I feel like if you can open the cap space to pay Hendrickson what he wants, I think you pay him. I know you drafted probably Stewart with the intention that if we can't come to an agreement with Hendrickson, then that's going to be our guy. But, I mean, now you're kind of on this conundrum of like, okay, are we either going to pay the Pro Bowl All-Pro pass rusher, or are we just going to adjust what we need to adjust on this contract? Because at the end of the day, like, what if you don't re-sign Hendrickson and this guy ends up sitting out? And because, I mean, I did hear that he is eligible to re-enter the 2026 draft if possible. I think that'd be a really unfavorable situation. That'd just be really odd. I don't think, like Andrew said, I don't think anybody's ever done that. So, I mean, I think it really just comes down to management going to decide, like, what are we going to do from here? Like, I know they don't want to lose either one of them. Don't want to lose both of them, of course. Obviously, you spend a first-round pick on one, and the guys led the league in sacks a couple times over the last few years or so. I mean, the real question is, what do you do? Like, should they pay Hendrickson? Should they, like, what do you guys think they should do?
It just depends. Is he demanding more than he's worth? Like, I just don't know the situation that well. I haven't really delved a lot into the NFL and the offseason after the draft, so I have no idea what's going on there. I mean, he's worth a lot, but is he asking for, like, quarterback money? That I just don't know enough about it to have a good response right now.
Okay. I mean, I don't find his quarterback money, but for a guy who's led the league in sacks over the last two out of 3 years, I think, I mean, the guy is worth paying. I mean, when you really, like how he said, when you let a guy like Jesse Bates walk, who is one of your cornerstones on defense, and your defense is already struggling, I'm paying the guy who's going to at least give me some production, and he's exceeding production, having over 10 sacks the last couple of years. So, I mean, personally, I would find the money to pay him and do whatever you need to do with this rookie contract, man. Whatever it is, just do it. Like, it's not that serious. Just get it squared away, get it done, because what's the point in using a first-round pick?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
league in sacks.
And like
What do you think, Sam?
Like you just said, Trey Hendrickson, since coming to Cincinnati, here are his sack totals since coming to Cincinnati. His first year there, he had 14. The second year, he had 8. He has literally 17 and a half in back-to-back seasons. How on earth can you even – and here's the thing. I'm sure he's asking for a pretty pay raise because just go look to what the Browns gave Myles Garrett. And they play the same position. Now, I'm not saying Trey Hendrickson is Myles Garrett, but if I'm walking into the building and – just in my sleep, I get you 14 sacks, I think I'm earning a little bit more than what I'm making. The Shamar Stewart situation is just an embarrassment because it's a rookie contract. This has nothing to do with money. This has something to do with some stupid little language in his contract. And they never put this in their rookie contract until him. They want him to be the quote-unquote test dummy for it, and he doesn't want to be that. You know you're messing up in a way when you are forcing a kid to leave mandatory minicamp, and he's only been with the team for a few months. Now, in terms of going back to Hendrickson, today is the first time, because I know you're talking about what should they do with either. I don't know if the intention is to get both of these situations finalized because today is the first day that Trey Hendrickson and the Bengals have spoken since the draft. They weren't even speaking before the draft, and they weren't speaking after because in Hendrickson's eyes, they quote-unquote drafted his replacement. The only problem is now you can't even sign his replacement. So I don't know what the Stewart thing, it should get handled. It's the Bengals, so I'm not guaranteeing they will get it handled. But That, to me, right now, seems the more likely of the two to get done quicker than the other. I don't know what Trey Hendrickson's future in Cincinnati is. I'm sure they're going to try to figure it out, but again, it's not like the guys just have like 4 10-sack seasons. The guy's had over 34 sacks in the past 2 years alone. He is not only the anchor of your defense, he's the only valuable option on your defense right now. And personally, also, I'll just say it now, I didn't like when the Bengals took Shamar Stewart anyway. I thought there were better options on the board. They didn't need to just take an edge rusher with their first-round pick. Their defense as a whole, they could have took multiple players. They could have took Jahad Campbell, who went to the Eagles at 31. Don't know how that happened still. But they could have took multiple players, and none of them would have been bad picks because that is how bad Cincinnati's defense has been and is going to continue to be. Texas A&M last year had one of the most loaded defensive fronts in college football. They had Nick Scurton, who went to Carolina. They had Shamar Turner, who was on the interior. Shamar Stewart only had, I know, like, the one thing I don't like about NFL teams now when it comes to draft prospects, they look at overall athletes. There is a difference between being a good athlete and a good football player. And when you are part of a defensive line that is that loaded and you can only generate 1.5 sacks, I'm a little concerned with how much productivity you will have on a football field. The Bengals should have learned this, 8 years ago? Well, look at this John Ross guy. He can run. Doesn't mean he's a good football player. Go ask him, look how his career turned out. So I don't hate Shamar Stewart. I didn't like the pick. I didn't like the lack of college production when I was doing my draft tape on him. I'm like, okay, pressures is nice. Getting the hurrying the quarterback is nice. You got to finish at some point. And the fact that, like I said, if you're on like a really bad team in college, like, let's be real. What was Marshall's defense last year without Mike Green? Probably nothing. Mike Green had 17 sacks, and he fell to the second round. Not because of his playing ability, we know that, but the fact that Shamar Stewart there wasn't the production there to say first-round pick to me. I didn't have the production in front of my eyes saying, okay, Bengals got this right. I don't know what the Bengals do get right on that side of the ball anymore.
Alrighty, I think Brandon froze for a minute there. He was having connectivity issues earlier. I know that sometimes you know how the internet can just go in and out, especially if you have kids, and it's just like because we have like 4 or 5 sometimes, and I can't get nothing because they've got phones and switches and Xboxes, and it just be like that. So it kicked him completely off. And he took the he took the thing with him. So what I'm gonna do is he'll be back just a second. So we gonna run a quick commercial until he gets back, and we'll see y'all back in just a few minutes. I gotta find his commercials. I don't really know which ones are his on here. All right, let's go with this one.
Perfect. Sorry about that. I hate the internet here and does not want to cooperate. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting situation to say the least. I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, if they were smart, I'd move the money around, pay the guy you need to, and just settle the crap over the contract. I mean, you don't need to overcomplicate it. All right, let's see. All right, I guess that's the only NFL talk for today. All right, now we're moving on to our Big Ten breakdown. Anybody who's been under a rock knows the Big Ten has won the last 2 national titles. A lot of people who were considering the SEC the upper echelon of college football are now starting to kind of question things, wonder if maybe the SEC's falling off. Maybe the SEC is going to take a backseat to the Big Ten, or will the SEC break this trend and not allow a three-peat from the Big Ten? But what do you guys think? How do you guys feel about the Big Ten going into this season?
I mean, personally, with the Big Ten, they're very take it to mommy. They're very top heavy. What we're seeing with the Big Ten now is what we saw with the SEC in like the 2000, like the mid and late 2000s. You got 2 or 3 teams that are just dominant, and then the rest of them are mid as hell, to be honest with you. Because you've got Oregon, you've got Ohio State, and you've got Penn State that are legit teams right now, but the rest of them are not. And what you got with the SEC, it used to be top heavy like that, and then everybody else mid, but now everybody's pretty good in the SEC. So the SEC is a better conference top to bottom, but this Ohio State team this past year, man, they were beasts. Absolutely unreal. They spent $20 million to get the players they want, and it showed. They put together a really good plan, and they executed really well. And that Michigan team, they had Connor Stallions and all that helped. So, I don't really know what to say about them. I don't know how deep that rabbit hole went, but this Ohio State team was definitely legit. Best team in the country, and they proved it on the football field throughout the playoffs. So I think the SEC overall is better than the Big Ten, but I think the Big Ten's heavy hitters are as good as any SEC team that exists. That's what I think.
Yeah, and like that you were saying about, how the SEC for all those years was dominating every other conference. Now with the way the transfer portal and NIL money is involved, let's just use Alabama. Well, first of all, and I know Alabama's like kind of a poor example here, but let's look at something with Alabama. All those years, right? How many 5-star guys would they have on their bench just because of how loaded their rosters were? Now granted, again, they don't have Saban to play for anymore, but now these kids don't have to sit behind guys. They can just get offered more money from another school. They'll transfer and go play there. And that's where some of the SEC dominance is going to kind of fade out. I do agree with you still the fact that the SEC is still a deeper conference because, like you said, you take out Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon. I personally think Michigan is going to have a better year this year, so I would put them into one of those. But if you look at the SEC, I agree, it's a deeper conference. But that top 4 at the top of the Big Ten they're heavy hitters, exactly.
Oh yeah, for sure. So if you look at it as a whole, like I said, SEC is a deeper conference, and the SEC, I believe, is still going to stay up there. I mean, like we can't pretend like those schools don't have money. But what you're going to see, to your point, schools like Ohio State, schools like Penn State, schools like USC are eventually schools with money are going to spend, and they're going to be just as good. And that's how it's going to be. Before it was, if you wanted to go to NFL, you went to Alabama, you went to LSU, you went to Clemson. These are the places you went. Now it's deep. Like if you go and you show out on the field, you will get drafted. You don't have to go to Alabama. And that's a detriment to what they're doing down in the SEC. So you look at Texas A&M, look at the kind of money they can spend. That's crazy, man. They spent 20-something million and only won 7 games one year. It's insanity.
They just had 3 defensive linemen drafted in the first 2 rounds of the first 3 rounds of the draft.
Yeah.
Like that's how you gotta look at these things. And no, like when we talk about the SEC, right? So the top 4 in the Big Ten are easy. Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, and would we put Michigan at 4 right now?
I mean, I don't know, man. They had a pretty rough season last year, and I really didn't see a lot in the offseason that made me believe that they're going to be back up there with those 3.
Well, bringing Bryce Underwood in will help them a lot. They needed a quarterback after McCarthy left, so that's going to help. All right, So who would you put right now as your fourth team in the Big Ten outside of the top three?
That's rough because a lot of what we saw with the Big Ten last year was players like you take like Iowa, right? Iowa may lose 7 games this year, to be honest with you. Like they're looking pretty rough. And then you have a team like Indiana with a fantastic coach who could be number 4. They had a very favorable schedule last year, but they certainly took it to the extreme. Illinois is up and coming. I don't think
Illinois gave Penn State a run last year in their game.
They did. So I don't know if I would put Michigan above Illinois or Indiana right now. But either of those 3 probably interchangeable until proven different.
Okay, so now let's go to the SEC. What are their top 4 right now in your eyes?
So, and a lot of people are going to disagree with me, and that's fine. I think number 1 in the SEC right now is Texas. I agree. I think Georgia's number 2.
Okay.
They're 5-star deep everywhere, and I think probably Alabama's number 3. I'm looking at all the 5 stars they still got there. There's no reason they shouldn't be a top 4 team in the SEC. And number 4 gets very, very hard because you got LSU, but we saw that they needed a bunch of fake flags to beat South Carolina last year. So were they really that good? Because they took 21 points off the board versus South Carolina on penalties that you couldn't find on replays. So, we're looking at a possible 28-point swing.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I'm getting here with this is my outlier question is South Carolina your 4th team? Because if they're not, take out the Big 3 and the Big 10. How many of those teams could beat South Carolina in the Big 10 outside of their top 3? I can't name many because South Carolina last year was really good. So
I would love to put South Carolina at number 4. The problem with doing that is that's my team. And I don't is it going to be like I got my Sellers jersey on, you know what I'm saying? Is it going to be what the experts are saying, or is it going to be what I know the history of South Carolina is? I know it's a different world now with Neil and all that. I'm putting South Carolina at number 4 right now, yes. And I'm thinking it's bias aside because I've been studying this a lot until they prove me different. Because South Carolina last year could have beat anybody at any given time, and that was amazing. That's something we haven't saw since the Spurrier era.
Cool deal. We talking about South Carolina?
Well, we were still going on about Big Ten and SEC and how they were looping, and then you wanted to know who the top 4 in each conference was, so we were doing that.
You got South Carolina top 5?
Number 4 in the SEC, not top 5.
Okay. I was about to say, hey, I feel good about them too, but I was like, wow. No, but I definitely had them as a fringe playoff team. They probably should have made the playoffs last year without a shadow of a doubt. Just some obviously questionable things happened down the line, and it was the first season with a 12-team playoff too, and it was kind of like unprecedented. They don't know who to put, and I think going into this year and so on, I think they're going to be a lot less hesitant to put those little squash teams in there unless they have to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. SMU had no business in the playoff.
Now, see, I don't necessarily agree with this comment. Comment says, in my opinion, Penn State has the potential to be something special next year. When I say special, I mean 19 LSU special. I think they could be really good. I think it really just depends on how they play with those really tough teams.
I could see Penn State being the number 1 team in the country and feeling really good about me saying that. And I'm not a Penn State fan. I have no loyalty to Penn State. I don't know. But Penn State is what it is. They are what they are, and they could have easily won the Natty last year. They were that good.
Yeah, they were.
Well, this is why me being on with you guys this week was perfect, because there is a Penn State fan here.
What?
He's in Philly, yeah.
I'm not even in Philly. I'm in Jersey.
Jersey, yeah.
Still right across the board.
That is also true. I actually went to Penn State and Bowling Green last year, and almost had a heart attack because for some reason Bowling Green wouldn't stop playing well. Harold Fanning Jr. ripped us to shreds. But anyway.
So when we get into the Big Ten, let's talk about some of the returning offensive stars from last season. We're talking about guys from Nebraska like Dylan Raiola. We got Katron Allen and Nick Singleton from Penn State. Obviously, possibly the best receiver in college football last year, possibly going to be the best receiver in college football this year as well, Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State. And then we got Drew Allard coming back for Penn State as well. So if you guys, and it doesn't have to necessarily be someone on the screen, but there's somebody coming back to this year who played last year you have really high hopes for in the Big Ten. If you could say one offensive player, who do you think you should keep an eye out for?
Not Raiola. He missed so many open passes last year. I was excited for him, but watching him play, because I love Nebraska in the 90s, so I kept an eye. But for me, it's Drew Allard, bro. This guy, maybe him and Cade Klubnik, I think, are the best two quarterbacks in college football. I think they're 1 and 2, and I think then there's everybody else after a large drop off. So give me Drew Allard. That's who I'm looking forward to seeing.
Okay.
Penn State bias. Of course, I'm going to say Drew Allard because I think Drew has a lot to prove heading into this year. I am glad he did not listen to some of the idiots that were trying to get him to declare for last year's draft, because all you had to do was watch the second half of that Notre Dame game in the playoff. He was not ready for that. He made bad throws, big mistakes, especially the one that essentially cost them the game. And also, I don't think Drew Allard's season last year.
Me, bro.
He gets a lot of disrespect because of what.
I think he froze.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, he's still there with us.
Yeah, you were saying something while he was talking, and it sounded like you said "shut up," and we were both like, "Huh?"
No. That's not
It
what
really did.
I know.
I think I was just pissed off at this freaking internet situation. It's not normal the case, but no, I did not say shut up.
I was like, "Bro, whoa!"
That escalated quickly.
It did. It did. Oh God, that's great. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
But what I don't think people talk about enough last year was just how bad Penn State's wide receivers were. Penn State's wide receiver group last year could not create separation if they tried. Harrison Wallace was decent in the beginning of the year. He ended up fizzling out mid-season on. I didn't even know Amari Evans was on the field half the time. And Julian Fleming, another one, just did not create any separation whatsoever. How ironic, all of them are no longer on the team. Fleming graduated, and Evans and Wallace hit the transfer portal, and Penn State ended up adding 3 new wide receivers. They added Kyron Hudson from USC, Devontae Ross from Troy, and Traver Pena from Syracuse, who was Kyle McCord's #1 target last year. I think personally Drew Allard is in a perfect position to be one of the top 2 quarterbacks in the country because of those 3 new wide receivers. Even though they lost Tyler Warren, they have Luke Reynolds coming in to be the tight end 1. He made some plays last year when he got the ball. Granted, very small sample size because of how good Tyler Warren was. And the fact that you have both Katron Allen and Nick Singleton and that offensive line, which was good last year, returning, I think they are set up and the biggest way to have Drew Allard have a really good season. And I think it's going to potentially put him in a situation where he's probably going to go top 5 in the draft because of it.
I wouldn't doubt at all. I think Penn State's done a really good job at setting themselves up, and then having that 2-headed monster at running back is really going to give them a bit more diversity on offense because, I mean, you could speak for it. Andrew could speak for it. Like, only options he had outside of the run game was hitting Warren the entire time, and that kind of hurt them and made them more one-dimensional. Don't get me wrong. In the playoffs, Warren was killing it. Like, he was just ripping them to shreds, but it hurts you and makes your offense more one-dimensional. It makes it easier to be able to pick you apart. Or maybe like in those crunch time situations, like you need that other guy to be able to get the ball to, but you don't have that option. So I think them doing that in the offseason, I think that's going to really give them the edge. And I think they definitely have a legit shot to come out of the conference this year as the winner, but we'll see.
So if they ever wanted to win the conference,
This year's the year.
it ain't going to get no better than what they've got right now.
Mhm.
That is, I mean, this team should by all means at least make. I mean, like Ohio State's that damn good too, though. So but I think Penn State's a little bit better.
Yeah. A lot more well-rounded. And the fact that they have a lot of those returning starters is really going to help you, especially down the stretch.
Yeah, agreed. All righty.
Let's see. I think we're going to go defense. Yeah, so we got some returning defensive stars. We got Mateo from Oregon. Obviously, Caleb Downs, big-time star out of Ohio State. Gabe Jacas out of Illinois is really good, as well as Zane Durant out of Penn State. So it doesn't have to necessarily be anybody on the screen, but if there's one defensive guy returning this year you expect to do big things. Who do you guys think?
So Gabe, the problem with him was South Carolina had 11 starters sit out the bowl game. So it wasn't even like their full squad, and he could not make it. I think Ungale, I think that's probably the guy. He's the better of the two brothers. I think he's going to make the biggest impact. I mean, Durant is obviously the best player on this board, but I'm more interested to see what Ungale can do because Oregon has to stop people this year if they want to get to where they want to be. The problem is when it mattered, even in the game that they won against Boise State, where they had some good luck penalties, they had to outscore them, and their defense was just mashed by Ginty. And this was a small offensive line, much worse than what they were going to see with Ohio State, Georgia, etc. So I don't know. They're going to. I guess Oregon's going to need him the most, so I want to see him the most.
Okay.
Well, of course, on the screen that it's to me, it's Caleb Downs. He's easily the best safety in college football. He's going to be the best safety in college football. He's probably, you could make the case he's going to be the first he could be the first defensive player taken in the draft next year if all goes well. Second of all, two guys, now again, Penn State bias, that I'm really excited for that are not on the screen is A.J. Harris and Zakee Wheatley. Harris, he came on mid-season on as one of the better corners that was lined up with the number one. They held in their game at Penn State. Let's be real. After the Penn State game in Penn State, Jeremiah Smith went on a heater from then on out. A.J. Harris held him to 43 yards in that game. That is not very easy to do, especially with the way that Ohio State team played all year. And Wheatley, Penn State really got dealt a tough blow 2 weeks into the season when they lost Kevin Winston to an ACL tear. And Wheatley had to come in and fill in for a lot of his role with Jalen Reed. And now that Penn State's lost both Winston and Reed to the draft, Wheatley's going to be highly put on as that number one safety in that defensive backfield. So honestly, there are so many players on Penn State's defense that could be in this conversation. Danny Dennis-Sutton is another one who was playing opposite of Abdul Carter last year. But to me, when you're in the same conference as Jeremiah Smith, A.J. Harris is going to be lined up with him again, and Zakee Wheatley is going to be asked to put on a big role because of the fact that Penn State has lost both of their safeties to the NFL draft. But I do love the fact that Zane Durant gets some love here because Zane Durant had an underrated season last year.
Can't argue that, man. It's definitely going to be interesting. I want to see these defensive guys and see what they can do for sure. So let's talk about some of the big impact transfers, man. Coming into the Big Ten this year, we got Trevor Pena, like you spoke on earlier. We got Nico transferring in from Tennessee to UCLA, and then we got Fernando Mendoza coming into the Big Ten as well. Who's a big-time impact transfer coming into the conference you feel have the biggest impact this year?
Man, I'm looking at Nico, man, and the problem I'm having with him right now is he had massive amounts of talent at Tennessee. I mean, they were stacked, and he continuously made mind-boggling mistakes behind super talent. UCLA does not have half of the talent that Tennessee did. We saw that last year. Like, they were a very bad team. He's not going to come in and make that much of an impact if he doesn't even have the caliber players he had before and had a very mid season. So I'm not seeing him as a major impact player. There's so many good ones. Pena will be a good one. But for me, no, Nico, no, I don't have a lot of high hopes for him playing with a bunch of people who are never going to be able to compete with the Penn States and the Ohio States of the world.
Yeah, valid point.
Yeah, essentially, I think it's the same thing. Nico just doesn't have the talent around him at UCLA, and especially now that they're in the Big Ten, it's welcome to the jungle because, like you said, you're going up against your Oregon and your Penn State. Now, of course, the one I'm more familiar with, of course, is Trevor Pena because, of course, he's now in my favorite school. But like we just said a little bit ago, Penn State was literally plays, not a game. They were plays away from potentially playing for a national title. The biggest problem in that Notre Dame game, and Brandon, you hit on it earlier, if it wasn't Tyler Warren, nobody was catching the damn football. Excuse my language. But nobody was catching the football. The fact that they had to add 3. Now, if you fear some teams, they'll add 1 wide receiver here. They added 2 wide receivers before the spring portal even opened up. They did it back in the winter portal with Hudson and Ross. Now, going into the year before the spring portal, you looked at it, you're like, okay, maybe Hudson, he could be that contested catch guy, catch the ball in some traffic for you. Ross, more of a guy that you're hoping can take the top off of defense for you and can run downfield and make big plays, which fits Drew Allers purposely, just the way how good he can be with deep ball. When Allers' deep ball is on, he's money. And they didn't have that last year because nobody could create separation. Pena is a short, intermediate route god, essentially. Go back and look at how easy he made Kyle McCord's life at Syracuse last year. They literally took 3 wide receivers, all with different skill sets. Drew Aller wants to throw a 50-50 ball. Kyron Hudson. He wants to throw it down the field to make a big play. There's Ross. And Pena can just be his security blanket in a way that Tyler Warren was now that he is not there. So now they won't have to give, they're still going to get plenty of touches to Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton. They can give those guys a breather because hopefully with these 3 and with Luke Reynolds at tight end, they can space the ball out to all these guys and they can make plays in the air. That is what cost them last year. They could not make plays in the air. Look at the Ohio State game at Penn State again. They had the ball at the 5-yard line twice. They couldn't complete a 5-yard pass. Gray Wallace had a ball stolen out of his hands in the end zone. Mm-hmm. They just could not make any consistent plays through the air if your name wasn't Tyler Warren. So, like I said, Nico, I don't see the talent at UCLA helping him at all. That whole situation is a shit show. Mendoza, I think he will help Indiana a lot, but I think Pena has the potential to make the most impact this year, strictly because he's already going to a team that is full of talent. And all they were missing last year were just some consistent pass catchers. That's all they were missing.
Yeah. It makes sense, man. And, I mean, that's what you really need on your team. You need to be able to fill all those different roles. So you have all those different options to be able to roll out, especially when you have a guy who's a possible top 5 pick in the draft next year. You want to be able to have as many different avenues to throw it to, not just having the reliable, like Jason Witten style, athletic Tyler Warren guy to be able to throw it to. Be able to have a deep threat, intermediate guy, and then a guy who can move the chains, and having a good running game and probably having a really good pass and block unit, and run block unit, makes you very well versatile, being able to take down these bigger teams, especially going into the playoffs. So. But let's move on, shall we? All right. So we got some big impact freshmen coming in this year. Obviously, the biggest name that everybody's talking about is the number 1 quarterback in this year's class was Bryce Underwood, who was originally committed to LSU, flipped his commitment, ended up flipping to Michigan, which I thought was crazy in itself. Supposed to have a lot of hype, a lot of potential. A lot of people are looking there. Another LSU transfer, Decorian Moore, ends up flipping his commitment to Oregon, looking to be a big-time threat for them. And then we got Devin Sanchez coming in this year for Ohio State. If you guys have any impact freshmen coming in this year that I think will be able to hit the field and hit the tires running, what do you guys, or who do you guys think is going to be that guy?
My concern for Bryce Underwood is if you look at the Michigan team last year, like they had a pretty decent quarterback back there and they couldn't throw the ball. Like at any point, anywhere, they could not throw the ball ever. They ran the ball like 90%, probably not that high, but it seemed that way when you watched Michigan through the year. They were just running the ball, because they couldn't throw it. So I don't know of any real impact receivers that came in. I don't know exactly what's going on. Who's Bryce going to throw it to? So I'm really not sure what you're going to get or why he even would go into that situation. I'm sure it had a lot to do with money, and Michigan has a lot of that. But I'm going to go with DeCarrion Moore. I think that guy is the real fucking deal. I think he's going to be a starter. I think he'll start all year long. I think he's going to win that job. I know they haven't announced their depth chart yet, but like I've seen this guy's tape, and man, I mean, just a superstar. That's who I think.
Yeah, and I think the thing with Moore is going to help him too. I don't know if you guys seen, but the devastating news about Evan Stewart that he's probably going to end up missing the entire season with a really, really bad injury. So if anything, that's going to really help push DeCarrion Moore into that top slot or that top role to really get a lot of touches going into this year, with Dante Moore going to be the first-year starter for them. So I'm really interested to see him. But who are you thinking, Sam? Somebody in the Big Ten coming as an impact freshman?
I personally think I agree with everything with Bryce Underwood. I think he's going to be good, but like you said, don't really know what we're looking at in terms of weapons for him to throw to. I think personally you're going to have to look at Devin Sanchez for Ohio State. They lost some of their corners in the draft, one of them including is Denzel Burke, who was one of their more veteran leaders on the team. I think he can come in right away and make a big impact, especially for his size. It's 6'2".
Okay, nothing wrong with that. And we got another comment that says, yeah, Michigan's offense might look ugly next year as if it wasn't ugly enough in 2024. Look, getting a superstar quarterback, like he said, I think he'll be good, but I think there will be growing pains, especially if you're limited at receiver. Like Andrew said, it feels like every time I turned Michigan on last year, it was just run. I didn't feel like I seen really any pass plays. And if they weren't really high percentage pass plays. Like they weren't plays that were like, okay, like I think you're going to be able to do something. It's just straight gut, dive, counter, toss. Like it was just run. Like I feel like it felt like it was like 90%, 10 percentile of running pass. They just couldn't get anything going. So, I don't know how good Michigan always has a pretty good offensive line. I feel like they're really good at run blocking and not necessarily as much with the pass game. But I'm hoping he's able to do something. I feel like if he does amount to having a really good college career, it might not show in year one, but maybe with enough promise I would say based on what they're able to do this year, for some crazy reason they beat Ohio State again and the hype is still there for whatever reason. I think that'll definitely help them in the transfer portal and recruiting. So I think he'll have a great college career. I just don't think it'll transition. I don't think it'll show right away in year one because I think they're going to have some struggles passing the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Let's move on, shall we? All right. So we're going to talk about some of the top coaches in the conference. For all you audio listeners, all the ones on the screen right now, we have Oregon's Dan Lanning. Comes into year one, wins the Big Ten, makes the college football playoff, but gets immediately exited out right after. We have Ryan Day of Ohio State coming off a national title win. James Franklin, like we said before, a few plays away from possibly being that other team in the national championship. And then we have Kirk Ferentz out of Iowa, man. Do you guys feel like these are the top four coaches in the conference? Do you feel like there's an upper echelon? Do you think it's just like 1, 2, 3? How do you guys see the dominoes falling with that?
So the problem with Ferentz is Iowa looks to be losing 7-8 games this year, man. Like if you look at what they have and the schedule they have, they're going to lose a lot of football games. Ferentz is the longest tenured coach in college football, but I think that comes to an end after this year. I think this is his last year with the team. I think Cincinnati's probably number 4 right now. The way he was able to use the transfer portal immediately, transition that into a playoff run from Indiana, man, that's crazy. That's pretty damn good. Like nobody in the grandma expected Indiana to even ever smell the playoffs, yet here they were in year one. Mm-hmm. I think Ryan Day's the top dog. I mean, he's got the natty. We can say we hate him and blah, 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 blah. He lost to Michigan, but he hoisted the trophy, and none of these other guys have one, so he's obviously number 1 in the conference. I think James Franklin's number 2. I think he's been a couple of plays away a couple of years from being that guy. So I think he's number 2. I think Lannon probably is number 3. He come over there and he put together a program that had fell off and instantly brought that notoriety. So but I'm going to put Cincinnati. I think Ferentz is on his way out. Just brutal schedule for Iowa. We were just going over it with the Hawkaholics and all that. Just fucking brutal, bro. And they don't really have the talent to compete with these teams on there. Like, they may honestly lose 7-8 games, and that's not going to fly in Iowa, and it'll be the end of Ferentz.
Cool deal. What'd you think, Sam?
I'm thinking I totally agree. I think Day is number one. I think Franklin is number two. He just needs to win the big damn game. Like you said, he's been a few plays away on multiple occasions.
Yep.
But, I know Lanning had a good year, his first year in the Big Ten last year, but Franklin, he's been doing it here for a while now. So I'll put Franklin 2, Lanning 3. Lincoln Riley should be on this damn list, but USC has no talent. But I have no issue with these being the top 4 coaches, but even though Iowa's got a brutal schedule.
I mean, Lincoln Riley, I don't believe in him. He is a fraud, and I will tell you why. So,
not the fraud's back. I ain't heard that in a while.
Look, he took over an Oklahoma team that Bob Stoops left in perfect position. It was the Alabama of the West at that time, 5 stars everywhere. So he looked really good. Then he had a Heisman quarterback, looked really good. Then he goes to USC. Caleb Heisman, he's in LA, so he wins the Heisman. But what we saw was he can't build. He's years in now, and is not any good. He did really good taking over a really good program. So would I. But when he inherited a broken program, like, he can't do anything because he is what we call in the game a fraud. That's my take on him.
And the crazy thing about that is, like, even with coaches that struggle to build, a brand like USC in reality should be able to, I'm not going to say build itself, but
correct.
That's a big time brand. It's a great market to be in. It's pretty much in California, and all the talent is out there. The money is there. Everything is there.
Yes.
The history of the brand. So realistically, you should be able to get down there whoever you want, as long as you're not, like, dumb. I think he's a great offensive mind, but when it comes to, like, building a team and, like, getting it where it needs to be, there's no excuse why USC couldn't come into the Big Ten and really compete. And like Andrew, and I'm pretty sure you feel the same way, is that they haven't really showed a whole lot of promise to show that they're gonna do that. Like, they had a really cool win over LSU week 1. Probably shouldn't have happened like that, but it happened, and we thought, oh, okay, well, they might actually be good this year. And then you get throughout the year, and you're like, oh man, like, this ain't no good, bro. Like, they ain't really doing nothing crazy or special. So I mean, that is definitely a favorable situation, but I don't think them in the Big Ten's a very favorable situation.
No, it should be, though. For everything you just said, they have the money, they have the notoriety, they have the facilities, they have the LA, the beaches. Like, there's no reason USC isn't in the top 4, and we not even mention them in anything. There's no reason. They have everything. They have everything, and they suck because their coach is a fraud.
Yeah, we got Cam. I thought y'all was gonna be brutal with my Kirk Ferentz picking the top 4.
I kind of was.
I'll let you have it, but not too bad.
Not too bad. He's a great coach. Like, I'm not going to take that from him, but this year's going to be brutal for him.
And I think I agree with what you said, in the sense that you can only do it for so long, man. You've been there so long. Maybe they're ready for some kind of form of change, maybe a change in culture, try to get back to, like, Iowa's already a hard team to really compete in the Big Ten with. We've seen them there. They've won games consistently, but being able to really compete with, like, Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, it's hard. The market isn't as great. It's not as favorable a place to go. There's a lot of things you got going against you. So I don't know. We're going to see. But he said, yep, 26 years of one job. I mean, it's a great accomplishment. Being able to be anywhere that long is a crazy. You don't see that very much anymore. You used to see it all the time. Now, not so much.
No, because winning is everything now. The money, like, but 26 years is the longest tenure coach. But I honestly, in my heart of heart, believes it comes to an end this year. I mean, they were calling for his job last year. Like, I heard it. We know a bunch of Iowa fans, you and I, Brandon, and they
were not having it.
Yeah, they were ready for him to go last year. So if he fucks around, excuse my language, if he messes around and loses 7-8 games this year, it's a wrap for old boy.
And it's not that they don't get talent, man. You've seen some guys go in the draft, but man, you gotta you got to be able to get it going on offense, man. You got to be able to do something because defensively, Iowa's always pretty damn talented. I feel like their defensive units are always good, but offensively, they just struggle to put points on the board, you know?
Bro, they signed an offensive coordinator and told him if he scored 25 points a game, they would give him a $10 million bonus at the end of the year, bro. Average when they fired him.
Sign me up.
That's the real thing that happened. But no, Iowa's offense is dead in the water. It really is. Losing game 7-6 is wild. If they win 7 or 8, I still think they move on from Ferentz. I think they're ready for it. But Ferentz, even if they win 7 games, like I was going to be like, we're used to winning 10 games a year. And now here we are mid to bottom part of the Big Ten, and they're going to want to change. That's just how I feel about it.
And I mean, it's a new Big Ten. They're going into this is year 2 of the new expanded conference. Maybe they're looking for a change of scenery. We're looking for a fresh face, maybe get some fresh, good talent in here to try to get the team going further in the conference than what they've been doing. So, I mean, I would agree with that. All right, let's move on, shall we? All right, coaches in good standing. So these are not the upper echelon of coaches, especially you guys listening. These are kind of those intermediate or guys pushing the limits of being in that upper echelon, according to my awesome co-host Cam. So we have a bunch of coaches listed here. We have Sharon Moore out of Michigan. We have Kurt Signetti, which Andrew spoke on earlier, thinking that Kurt Signetti is pretty much in the upper echelon, especially when he was in year 1. We got Greg Schiano out of Rutgers, who did pretty well last year. Got Brett Bielema. Cam's a really big Brett Bielema guy out of Illinois. Ooh, Lincoln Riley again. We got Matt Rule coming into year 2 at Nebraska. Jed Fish in Washington, and then PJ Flex in Minnesota. So out of any of these coaches on the board, like, who do you feel like should be here, shouldn't be here? What do you guys think?
Bro, we just gave every reason Lincoln Riley shouldn't be on this screen.
Not even in good standing, though.
No. I'm not convinced Matt Rule's in good standing. I think Nebraska expected more. They spent all that money, and he come in and he's like, "Hey, this is what happens when you hire me. You lose a bunch in the beginning." And but this is not 10 years ago college football. This is nil. They spent the money. They went out and bought it, and he didn't do it. I don't think he's in good standing either. Sharon Moore, man, he's under like 65 investigations. Like, I don't understand. The rest of them on here for sure. Signetti, Schiano's amazing coach. Brett Bielema, they love him up there. PJ Fleck, they built a statue to him there if he wins a natty. But yeah, Moore, Rule, and Riley, I don't think belong on this list.
And then we got a comment from Cam. It says, no hot seat coaches, in my opinion. A lot of them have good jobs. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but
Lincoln Riley's on the hot seat for sure.
I would probably agree.
Yeah.
What you thinking, Sam?
I agree. Like I said, Lincoln Riley, again, not a good builder of a program, clearly. Signetti with Indiana deserves all the praise for what he did last year.
Correct.
Schiano, what he did at Rutgers last year was damn impressive. They had some really solid players, had a really solid year. They finally showed some promise in that program. Moore, I think Moore's just a placeholder in Michigan. He was just hired because they lost Harbaugh. They needed to get somebody. And I hate saying that. I feel bad for the guy because last year you knew there would be some type of drop-off with all the talent they lost in the NFL draft. But now that he's going to have Underwood, even though our opinions on Michigan's offense, when you get one of the number 1 recruited quarterbacks into your program, there's some added pressure to that. And I don't really know what his future at Michigan will be if they don't perform somewhat better than last year because they have a top quarterback recruit now. I loved Matt Rule when he was at Temple all them years ago. He built a solid program at Temple. But like you said, this is not the old college football. You can't go off of that kind of stuff. You need to win when your school spends the money. And I always said Matt Rule, better college coach than he ever the hell was as an NFL coach. We know that for sure. But, yeah, I think I'm not completely out on Rule, but they got to do something this year.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that at all. I think they had a lot of hype going into last year. I don't think they were projected to win the conference by any means. But getting a guy like Dylan Raiola, being a flip from what was it, Georgia, I want to say he was committed, then he flipped to Nebraska. That was a huge deal. Everybody was completely shocked at that. We've seen them struggle a bit last year, especially offensively. I like Matt Rule as a coach, but I would agree with Sam in the sense that, like, I don't necessarily think he's in the hot seat yet, but they need to show some promise this year. And when I say promise, I think you need to be bowl eligible. If you really want to be in good standing, you need to be sitting in maybe that 8-win range. I don't know if that's possible for them. I haven't looked at their schedule yet, but the Big Ten has done nothing but get better. And, I mean, they have a lot of question marks. And we got to see Raiola make that next step of the pass. I think his potential is sky high. But we need to see him be able to play into that pressure in the Big Ten, especially with those big top-heavy teams like Andrew was speaking of. Sherrone Moore, I would agree. I think he could probably fall into that placeholder spot. And they have so much things going on with investigations and allegations and sanctions and all these shuns, man. It's too much going on up there in Ann Arbor. I just don't see them being a major ploy in the Big Ten this year. I like what Rutgers did last year. Nobody's seen that coming, as well as Indiana. They both kind of jumped on the scene out of nowhere. Brett Bielema at Illinois have been really, really competitive. We've already spoken on USC to say they're frauds. I don't necessarily have a huge opinion on Washington. I just think they're kind of the odd man out, kind of like how UCLA is coming in. Just think they're going to really struggle to be able to compete with these other teams. And PJ Fleck, like you said, a lot of them loved him up there. If he wins a national title, he might get a few statues, brother. He might get the royal treatment for life. But, yeah. If I had to say guys that weren't in good standing, though, I would definitely say Lincoln Riley is not in good standing at all. I think they're in a really bad spot.
I disagree with one thing you said. You said Matt Rule wins 8 games. He'll be like, no, bro. So Bo Pelini was in year 5, won 9 games, and was about to win the 10th game in the bowl, and they said this isn't good enough. And that was building. Like they bought Matt Rule a team. If he only wins 8 games, I think it's going to be a problem at Nebraska. I really do. You don't spend all this money and you a blue blood old school program like Nebraska and you win 8 games. Like you spent $20 million, you won 8 games. Thank you, bro. No, I don't think it's going to.
I mean, that's a valid point though. It just I don't know how realistic it. And I think I wouldn't even say that 8 wins is okay. I feel like 8 wins may be more realistic than the obviously what they want. And being like a 10-win team and possibly trying to make a conference championship. I don't see that for them unless they come onto the scene. Unless they freaking take everybody by storm like Indiana did, like nobody sees it coming. They're able to really come out hot. But I just don't see how likely that is going to be. But I guess we'll see. A lot of really cool storylines, though, for sure, especially with the coaches. Coaches that must improve. So there is a bottom tier here. Oh, let's skip back a little bit. There we go. So for all you audio listeners, we have Luke Fickell with Wisconsin. We have David Bond from Northwestern, Mike Locksley in Maryland, Jonathan Smith with Michigan State, and then Deshaun Foster, who we kind of spoke with UCLA. Out of all these coaches on the screen, who do you feel like is in the biggest need to improve going into this season?
Before we get there real quick, so I just looked at Nebraska's schedule, bro. They got the most favorable schedule. They don't play Ohio State. Like they don't play Oregon. Like they got a lot. They got it. Yeah. If they don't win 8 games, he's getting fired. Yeah, for sure. Like, wait till you see the schedule, bro. That is the easiest Big Ten schedule I've ever seen in my entire life. Like that's crazy easy. Deshaun Foster, he took over a very bad. Like Chip Kelly left them just a few months before the season started in absolute shambles. So I'm not ready to give up on him yet. You know, he got Nico in there. Let's see what he can do. Because Chip Kelly left that really. That's why he left, bro. Like the program was ass, and he's like, I'm not doing this. Jonathan Smith, yeah, I don't know, man. Like once again, the former coach had done some dirty stuff, so you know they're also being looked at with a lot of allegations up there. That's rough for him. Locksley, I don't see it getting much better for him. I think Luke Fickell is going to be fine. I think you're going to see Cincinnati. Blew my mind. I think you're going to see Wisconsin win a bunch of ball games under him. I think Wisconsin was just a couple of turnovers away last year from being a very good football team. So I think he's fine. Northwestern is just going to be Northwestern, bro. Like it just, the last coach did some really dirty stuff too. So, and they loved him up there.
And he left like right before the season too. I think the coach who was there previously, didn't they? Or they ran him off like not even a month before the season or something crazy like that.
Yeah, he was doing some dirty shit, man. They had to let him go. But
Must be a Big Ten thing.
Yeah, I think out of all these, I think Fickle and Foster deserve time because like Chip Kelly left that program in shambles, and I think like Wisconsin was a really good team last year. Just had some unfortunate incidents out there, but the rest of them, I feel bad for them. They're probably going to be gone in a year or two.
Well, first of all, what a surprise. Chip Kelly leaving something worse than when he took it over. That doesn't surprise anybody, right? Anyway, pray for Ashton Genty, okay? Just pray for Ashton Genty. We did a show. We were doing some off-season outlooks, and I think my co-host Tyler said, I think he predicted Chip Kelly to be fired within the first, 3 months of the season. So we're Eagle fans. We hate Chip Kelly here. But I kind of agree. I mean, I think Foster, like you said, Kelly left him with a mess, but it definitely has the room to improve now that Nico's there. You kind of get a guy like that, got to improve in some areas. So I think he'll be hopefully fine with Nico. Like I said, we said before, UCLA, not the talent that Tennessee had, but you got to start somewhere. I think Fickle, again, I think he's fine too. Wisconsin is always a pretty solid team in the Big Ten. They'll always be in games. They always play tough. They're always going to be in those games. And I basically agree with the other three. I don't see it getting much better.
No, I agree. It's just not, bro. Not in this Big Ten. This is a rough Big Ten.
I definitely think Fickle's in the best situation, though. I think Wisconsin's already a really good brand as it is. He's a really good coach. And I think what he's going into, is he going into year 2 at Wisconsin? Yeah, because he was, I think this is year two.
Yeah,
I definitely think they're going to be better. They're going to be definitely a bowl eligible team. I think Wisconsin's going to give a lot of people fits, especially if he gets back to what Wisconsin does really well, and that's running the ball. Yeah, I think Wisconsin will be really good coming in this year. I don't think playoff bound, but I think they'll definitely be a bowl team and give a lot of teams some fits. So let's see. All right. He says, no hot seat coaches, but welcome to the Big Ten, Barry Odom of Purdue, man. What do you guys feel about this fit? Do you think he's a good fit at Purdue? What do you guys have any expectations for them going into this year?
He is not going to go in and blow the doors off, but it really was the best case scenario for Purdue to get this guy. He has a proven track record. I think it was a home run hire for them. Will he ever reach the Ohio States and all that at Purdue? No, probably not. But I think this was the best they were ever going to get, and I think this is a good situation for Purdue.
Agreed.
Can't go wrong, man. If they can get anywhere close to where Breeze and them had Purdue in the 90s, man, that'd be pretty good. I don't know if they will, but all right. So we're going over some of these teams from last year. I think, we're going over everybody's record last year. We're starting with the Oregon Ducks, man. Obviously, coming into year one, winning the Big Ten was already a huge deal. Being able to go into a big, strong conference like that, win in year one. Finished the season at number 4 in the coaches poll, 3 in the AP, and 13-1 with a 9-0 Big Ten record. Well, how do you guys feel about Oregon's first year in the conference? Do you feel like they exceeded expectations? Do you feel like they should have done more? What do you guys think?
I mean, they obviously exceeded expectations. They should have took that L against Boise State. They should have took that L against Ohio State. Both of those games were at home, and they got a bunch of strange calls to pull their asses out of the fire several times. Refs matter. They impact the game, and they did that for both of those. So they should have had 2 more losses on this season. No, I mean, like Ohio State had them beat without the refs, and so did Boise State. However, with that being said, what he was able to do, you could only coach the situation you're dealt. And he coached through the situation. He got a couple favorable calls, 13 wins. Nothing but blue skies for Oregon going forward because they did nothing but get a lot better in the offseason.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, first of all, you can take that big championship game score off. I don't need to see that again. I'm just still not over the fact that Tom Allen had literally no answer for Tez Johnson one time in that game.
It's a good game, though.
I know, but every time he touched the damn football, I felt like he took it 15-plus yards.
Oh, man. Oh, we got a comment. It says, please don't tell me that you're one of those that complain about the Chiefs and refs. I mean, that is a valid argument, though, because it's blatantly obvious the things that happen like that. And it's no surprise that stuff like that happens because there's money involved, man, especially at high-stakes games like that with big names and big brands at play. There's a lot of money, and, yeah, there are definitely questionable calls that happen in these games. But speaking of Oregon going into this year, like, what do you guys have for expectations for them? Like, do you guys think they're still in the conference championship picture? Do you think they're going to be a perennial playoff team? Do you think they can go on a run for a natty? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think they're a playoff team. I mean, they got better in the offseason. Do I think they're going to win the Big Ten? No. I think they're the third best team in the Big Ten behind Penn State and Ohio State. So when you look at it, the Big Ten's going to get 4 teams in. I think they are this year. And you got to think like Oregon, they got Northwestern and then Indiana, Rutgers, Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, Southern Cal, and Washington. Like, you have a couple of good teams in there, but there's no way Washington's going to beat them. Southern Cal's going to beat them. Minnesota's not going to beat them. Iowa's not going to beat them. Wisconsin's probably not going to beat them. Rutgers isn't going to beat them. Indiana's probably not going to beat them. So, yeah. Then Oregon State and whoever, Montana State. Yeah, I think Oregon's going to win 10, 11 games this year, and you'll see them in the playoffs for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. And like you said, they're not. Are they probably behind still Penn State and Ohio State? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm very interested to see how Ohio State looks this year because just like Michigan 2 years ago, a lot of turnover, a lot of guys left for the NFL. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond to it.
Yeah.
But
I'm mostly interested to see how Dante Moore does going into year one at quarterback for them. I think he's got a lot of talent, and I think they got a lot of talent at the skill positions for him. So I would agree. I think they are the third best team between Ohio State and Penn State as well. So we move on to the next team. We talk about Penn State, man. Fiesta Bowl champions, man. Slightly lost in the Big Ten championship and was a couple plays away from being in the national championship game. Finishing the season at number 5 in the coaches poll, number 5 in the AP. Finishing the season with a 13-3 record and an 8-1 Big Ten record, man. Good season nonetheless. Came up short, but a lot of high expectations going into this season. How do you guys feel about how they played last season? And then how do you guys feel about coming into this year?
Penn State could have easily won the national championship last year. I had Penn State at number 1 in the CSV poll. I think 5 weeks last year. They were looking that good. And this year, man, like I'm looking at it, they get Oregon at home, right? They go to Ohio State, that's rough, but then they got Iowa, Northwestern, UCLA, Villanova, Michigan State, Nebraska, Rutgers. Very favorable schedule for Penn State. And getting Oregon at home is a big deal. I think you're going to see Penn State win 11 games. Just based on history says they're going to slip up to Oregon, Ohio State 1. But being 11-1 and being in the playoffs for sure.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, look at all the times they won last year. And like we said, pass catchers last year, brutal. Probably the worst. I honestly think out of all the playoff teams, they could have had easily one of the bottom 3 pass catching units in the league, in the conference, because of how poor they could not create separation. And they still won all those games last year because of having Tyler Warren, an elite run game, and they were elite on both sides of the line, both offensive and defensive. Now, the loss of Abdul Carter to the NFL hurts, but Zane Durant's back, Dennis Sutton is back, Wheatley's back, A.J. Harris is back. All these guys came back. Their running back duo came back, still have Drew Aller. They brought in 3 new wide receivers. But the one thing we have not talked about yet is how good of a job Tom Allen did with that defense last year, how much talent they brought back into it, how much talent they added to it, and now they hand it over to Jim Knowles, who just coached the national champions defense last year. Mm-hmm. I think that alone puts Penn State potentially to be the best team, but they have potential to be the best team in the country. I know there was a comment earlier that said 19 LSU. They're not 19 LSU. That team got 3 transcendent college stars out of it. Not saying Penn State couldn't, but They don't have the wide receiver talent that 2019 LSU did. But I think the addition, with Andy Kolicki at offensive coordinator, they're going to have creativity. They're going to run the ball well. They're going to get their receivers open, hopefully much better than last year. But the addition of Jim Knowles to an already good defense, Tom Allen did a good job last year. The only problem is he decided to have his two worst games against Oregon and then against Notre Dame in the second half of that game. And to not only add Jim Knowles as your defensive coordinator, but to take him away from literally your biggest rival in your conference, I think Penn State, that alone has them set up for a major chance. And I have them too. I have them winning somewhere around 11 games. And I think they're going to finish top 3 in the country this year. And they have the potential to be the best team in the country. But I think a top 3 finish is very realistic.
No, I full-heartedly agree with both of y'all. I think that's a really good point. We got another comment. Cam says, Penn State has a Cadillac Williams and Ronnie Brown type backfield with Allen and Singleton. Having a two-headed monster and having a really good offensive line unit that can run block like they can, having a guy who can sling the ball around like Allen and having weapons to throw it to, man, makes that offense really dangerous because you really don't know what they're going to do. You don't know who they're going to hand the ball off to. They can utilize the play-action game. They can utilize the intermediate and long ball in the pass game. It definitely helps going into this year. Now you're not so reliant on one target. Makes them a lot more dangerous. And I think they're going to give Ohio State a run for their money for sure. So we move on to the third team in the conference, man. Let's get into the Indiana Hoosiers, man. We kind of spoke on it earlier. Exceeded expectations. I don't think anybody expected Indiana to be ranked. Nonetheless, finding their way to be ranked as high as they were, making the playoffs, man. They lose in the first round of Notre Dame, 10-point game, 27-17. They finished the season and number 10 in the AP and coaches poll with an 11-2 record, 8-1 in the Big Ten. Nonetheless, a really good season, more than exceeded expectations. How do you guys feel about how they performed in year one, and do you think they can build off of that going into year two and do the same thing, if not more?
So, year one, they had a very favorable schedule. They used the transfer portal well. Year two, they also have a very favorable schedule, bro, like Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, Indiana State. And then they get Illinois at home, and then it's Iowa, and then they go to Oregon. They're going to take a loss there. And then Michigan State, UCLA, Maryland, they're going to take a loss at Penn State, Wisconsin, and Purdue. I think you're going to see them win 9 games again this year. I don't think you're going to see them in the playoffs this year. But I say that, but their schedule lines up really well. They're taking losses to Penn State. They're taking a loss to Oregon. They avoided Ohio State. They might get got with Illinois. I just don't know, but I don't think we're going to see a repeat playoff run this year. No.
Okay, can't argue that.
Yeah. No
point. You full-heartedly agree with that?
He just basically just hits every point, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I think Carson Yeti is definitely one of the better coaches in the country. I don't know what their quarterback situation is. I know Curtis Work got drafted by San Francisco. And they just paid freaking Brock Purdy too, which was a terrible decision. But nonetheless, I think Indiana's still in a real favorable situation. I could agree with Andrew. I could see them in that 9-win range. You never know, though, man. He's a really good coach. They're scrappy. They might get got by Illinois, but you never know, man. One of those big top-heavy teams. I could see if they beat Oregon or Penn State. I don't see it being Penn State. I'd probably say they'd have a much better chance of knocking off Oregon, but I don't really see that happening either. So I'd probably say 8-9 wins. Still a good season. You're bowl eligible. Being competitive in the conference, you can't go wrong with that.
Look, if I woke up and you told me that Indiana found a way to upset Penn State in the James Franklin era, I would not be surprised one bit.
It would not be a good day, though, for you.
I've dealt with it every year since he got here, so it doesn't hurt anymore. It's the definition of insanity. You just keep doing the same thing and expecting different results.
Yeah, but far better under this era, winning 11 games a year than before he got there. So there's always that. Fair point. Yeah.
Look, I have never had. I know people like to give James Franklin the knock because of the big game stuff. What he's done for this program, since what happened in 2011, we don't need to bring it up at all. We all know what happened. If you go watch HBO, if you go watch the movie on Max, I credit you because I watch it and I can't stand it every time I watch it. For what he's done for this program since then, I'll never have, outside of some stupid in-game criticisms, I'll never have a bad thing to say about the guy. But the other guy that deserves a lot of that credit is also Bill O'Brien, who took them through those dark years when they had nothing.
Yeah, that's true. Helped transition them into what they are now, and he's helped keep them at a really high level. And this is probably the best team he's had since he's been there. I think they have the best chance of making a deep run, if not being able to finally get over that hump, you know?
This is the best era of Penn State football since like the 80s.
Since like 88, I think, or whatever. I think when
because the one thing that you find out in the Paterno movie, which I, again, don't want to bring up anything about that situation, they tried to get him to step down in 2006 because they weren't performing. They went 20 years without having much where they were still hanging around the AP top one and the AP polls and all, and still being somewhat contenders, but they weren't national title contenders. They were trying to get him to step down in 2006, but he wouldn't do it.
Hey, can't knock that. Now we can move on to the reigning, defending national champions, man. The 2025 Ohio State Buckeyes football team, man. Consensus national champions, Rose Bowl champion, Cotton Bowl champion, man. Have a really good run in the playoffs, beating Tennessee in the first round 42-17, knocking off Oregon by a sizable margin, winning in the Cotton Bowl against Texas, and knocking out Notre Dame in the national championship, finishing the year at number 1 in the AP and coaches poll with a 14-2 record and a 7-2 Big Ten record, man. A lot of people getting on Ryan Day because, yes, you win the national title, but you don't win the game. Speaking on, obviously, the Michigan game. But, I mean, to say first team ever to win a national title on a 12, obviously in a 12-team playoff, going through a pretty sizable thing of teams at the end. What do you guys think? How do you guys feel about their performance last year winning the Natty? And how do you guys feel about going into this year? Do you think they can replicate that? Do you think they're going to be better this year than last year? Or what do you guys think?
First of all, let me just call crazy talk real quick. For any fan who's like calling for Ryan Day's job because he lost to Michigan, but he won the Natty is an idiot, bro. We could lose to Clemson 7 straight years, but if Shane Beamer wins 2 Natties in that tenure, I do not care. Like, that's crazy talk. Obviously, last year they won the Natty. This year, I mean, they spent money again. They start the year with Texas. That's brutal. Hats off to them for scheduling that game. But that's a brutal start to the season. And then, you know, they got, you know, Washington, who's down, Minnesota. They go to Illinois. Could be a trap game. I mean, like, how good is Illinois going to be? And then they go to Wisconsin once again. How good is Wisconsin going to be? I think they're going to be pretty good. You know, then they get Penn State at home, which is really, really good for them because they do not want to go into Penn State this year, especially with everything that's going on. And then Purdue, UCLA, Rutgers, and Michigan, who I don't think is going to be that good. I 10-2, 11-1. Just really depending on how the Penn State game goes, to be honest with you. But you'll see Ohio State in the playoffs for sure.
Can't argue that.
Yeah, they're still going to be, like you said, they're going to be in that 10-11 win mark. They're going to be easily one of the top 3 teams in the country still. I think Penn State and Ohio State are 2 of the guaranteed to be the top 2 of the top 3 in the country. First of all, am I still having to listen to Ohio State fans bitch and complain because they lost to Michigan en route to winning a national title?
Yeah, that's what I said. Crazy dog.
I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan. So what does that naturally say about me? I hate the Dallas Cowboys. If you told me that in the next 3 years, don't count what just happened this past year, from this year coming up for the next 2, the Cowboys would beat the Eagles 6 consecutive times, sweeping the regular season series the next 3 years, but the Eagles won the Super Bowl 2 out of 3 years out of that, do you think I'm going to be pissed off at that? I'm listening to Ohio State fans that won a national title complain because they lost to Michigan? Whoop-de-freaking-do. I haven't been to a national title since the freaking 80s. I wasn't a thought in my mother's head yet. So please do not complain to me that you lost to Michigan, but you won the national title. That's like a freaking spoiled rich kid saying, I wanted a freaking Ferrari, but I got a freaking Lamborghini. Like, what are we talking about? Why are we complaining? Don't complain about this stuff. But no, anyway, like you said, they spent money again. They're going to be a top team in the country. The Penn State game at home is going to be interesting. Have fun with that first game against Texas. That's brutal, but that's going to be entertaining. But they're going to end with one of the top spots in the country again, so it's not going to surprise anybody.
For sure.
I think the biggest thing for me, top to bottom, they probably got the most complete roster. They're in that conversation. My biggest thing, I want to see what Julian Sayin does as a freshman coming in. Well, I'm not as a freshman, but really getting to see the field for the first time in full capacity. How is he going to embrace that moment? Is he just going to step in and really just fill that role and play? Or is he going to have some of those growing pains and he's going to struggle? Because if he embraces the moment, he plays to his potential, Ohio State could be really prolific in the pass game. Like, Will Howard was good for them last year. He obviously improved with the level of talent around him. I want to see, like, what Julian Sayin can do with obviously a Heisman frontrunner, Jeremiah Smith, and a lot of other really good talent around him as well. So let's see.
Agreed.
What's next? We got Illinois, man. So Illinois ends up winning the Citrus Bowl last year over Andrews South Carolina Gamecocks by only 4 points. Finishing the season as the number 16 team in the country and the coaches in an AP poll. Pretty good season, man. Finishing the season 10-3 with a 6-3 Big Ten record. I like what Illinois has been doing. They're scrappy. They're not afraid to fight, man. They really want to fight in the phone booth, bro. They're a really good team, exceeding expectations. How did you guys feel about them last season? And do you think they win range, or you think they're going to slack off a little bit going into the season?
So, you're looking at them. They played a pretty favorable schedule last year. They beat South Carolina, but without 11 of their starters. So it's not like they beat the starting South Carolina team that won 9 games. So it's hard to gauge off of that. Now, with that being said, their schedule is pretty favorable. Like they play Duke, Western Michigan. They have to go on the road to Indiana, but USC, who's terrible, Purdue, who's terrible. They get Ohio State at home. Washington's terrible. Rutgers decent. Maryland, Wisconsin, and Northwestern. Very favorable schedule again. I can see them around the 8-win, 9-win maybe this year. Probably about the same as last year because the schedule looks about the same. They got some talent there. They're going to take big losses to Ohio State, though. Outside of Ohio State, though, and maybe Indiana, very, very – like if I was to put South Carolina on the schedule, the only team I would be worried about is Ohio State. So very favorable schedule for them, and so you should see them around the 9-win mark if they repeat what they did last year.
Okay.
Yeah, with the schedule being in that favor, being right around that same area they were, not about 9 wins, very realistic. The biggest tell of their season last year was how trappy they were as the game they played at Penn State. They held Penn State's offense down for a lot of that game and gave them chances to win that game. The only reason that Illinois unfortunately didn't win that game is because what a freak Abdul Carter was. I mean, Abdul Carter had to win Penn State a few games last year because of what a freak he is. But, yeah, I think they're going to be right around. They still have a favorable schedule, and I think they're going to be right around that same win mark they were last year. I don't see any reason why that would fall off at all.
And that's not bad, to be honest with you, knowing that Illinois is not in the upper echelon of those powerhouse teams. Being in that 8, 9, maybe even a 10-win range, that's a really good year for Brett Bielema's squad, man. Being able to go into almost any situation and know that, man, if we play the dominoes right, we could get an upset, especially with some of these top-heavy teams. I don't think they're favored, but the way they play, the style they play, and the way that Brett Bielema coaches that team, the sky's the limit. Obviously not a playoff team, but I could definitely see them falling somewhere in the same boat of where they were this year. All right. So we move on, man. We spoke on them a little bit earlier, man. We're going to get into the Iowa Hawkeyes, man. Not the greatest season, like Andrew says, man. They're used to sitting in that 9 to 10 win range. Last year, kind of little in my opinion. Finishing the year with a loss in the Music City Bowl to Missouri, 27-24. And finishing the season with an 8-5 record, 6-3 in conference. We kind of spoke on this earlier, man. I would probably tend to agree with Andrew in the sense that I think that they're going to be looking for a change of scenery, a fresh face to kind of give a rejuvenated sense of winning to the program. It's already a hard place to get really good recruits in. It's not a great market. There's nothing to do in Iowa besides look at cornfields, unfortunately. But they do have a rich history of good players. But in my opinion, I think I'm probably going to side with Andrew. They're definitely going to be sitting anywhere between 6 to 8 losses this season. I don't think it's going to be good. I think they're going to be looking for a new head coach as well.
For sure. I think they start the year 2-2. I think they lose to Rutgers and Iowa State. Iowa State's at home too. Iowa State, just really good team. Came out of nowhere last year, surprised me. And then they got Indiana. I don't think they win that game. Wisconsin, I don't think they win that game. They're not beating Penn State. Minnesota's a toss-up. They're not beating Oregon. Southern Cal, maybe. Michigan State, maybe. They're not beating Nebraska. A lot of losses on this schedule for them. Brutal schedule, brutal year. I don't have a lot of hopes for them.
Agreed.
Yeah, and like you said, they really could probably need a new voice because of how long they've had their coach and brutal schedule on top of it. They're not going to get all the upper echelons in the Big Ten. They're just not going to compete with talent wise. So they're probably going to. That 8-5 record last year was fine, but it's going to look. It's not going to be that same situation this year.
No.
All right. So who we got next? Oh, we got the Michigan Wolverines, man. ReliaQuest Bowl champions beating Cam's Alabama Crimson Tide is definitely a team that he does not see much favor in, unfortunately, man. But last year, man, obviously a big fall off, losing a lot of talent, like Sam said to the NFL draft, and a lot of distractions going on outside and off the field as well. Sharon Moore going into year 2, coming off an 8-5 record, 5-4 in conference play. I just don't see Michigan making a whole lot of noise this year. I haven't taken a great look at their schedule, but I think they will have their struggles. I do want to see what Bryce Underwood can do in year 1, but I do have a lot of question marks when it comes to skill position-wise and how they can compete offensively against the upper echelon of the Big Ten.
So they do avoid Penn State and Oregon.
That's good.
So that's a big win for them. However, they have to go to Oklahoma. Oklahoma is a better football team than them. They're going to take an L there. They have to go to Nebraska. I think Nebraska is a better team than they are right now. Wisconsin goes to Michigan, so that gives them an advantage, but I think Wisconsin's going to be good. Washington's pretty bad. Michigan State's pretty bad. Purdue's pretty bad. Northwestern's pretty bad. Maryland's and then they lose to Ohio State. I'm going to give them probably about the same record you see here, to be honest. 8-5, maybe 7-6. The schedule is favorable. You don't play Oregon. You don't play Penn State. But you do pick up Oklahoma, but you play Purdue and Northwestern and Michigan State and Washington, and that bodes well for you. And then you got your out-of-conference game against Central Michigan and New Mexico. There's 6 wins right there. I got to feel like they could pick up 1 or 2 somewhere else. So 7-5, 8-6, or 8-4 regular season for sure.
Yeah, so bowl eligible, just nothing flashy.
Correct. That's my prediction.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you look at, like we said, Bryce Underwood, yeah, it's definitely going to be an upgraded quarterback, but what's around him? Do they have the offensive talent? They definitely don't have the offensive talent of an Ohio State or an Oregon. I don't think they have the offensive talent of a Penn State either. And Penn State doesn't have the offensive talent of an Ohio State or an Oregon either. Penn State's just got talent all over the board. I think Penn State's talent has the potential, but Michigan doesn't even have into that echelon of talent, in my opinion. So I think Bryce Underwood will show us why he's a 5-star recruit. I just don't know how many games can he win you by himself.
Being so young, too.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
No experience coming in green with no college play experience. So, and especially, I want to see how that offensive line handles, because if he takes big hits early, I want to see how he's going to answer that. Like, is he going to crack? And is he going to get rattled, or is he going to, like, buckle down, dig deep, and, like, make those plays to win those games? You know, I'm really curious to see how he – because, I mean, it is a crazy environment like the SEC, man. It's crazy. And you going into some of these big teams, like, you got to play Oregons and Ohio States and these big-time teams. Like, how do you handle that pressure, and how do you handle that big-time talent coming around the edges and up the middle to bring pressure to you, you know? Let's see. We move on to the Golden Gophers of Minnesota, man. They win the Mayo Bowl last year. What an interesting one, man. They beat Virginia Tech 24-10, and they fall pretty much in the same boat as Michigan, man. 8-5 in the regular season, just above 500 in the Big Ten, finishing 5-4, man. Do you guys see them falling into the same boat? Are you guys kind of indifferent? Do you think they can exceed that? Where do you guys see Minnesota falling this year, and how do y'all feel about their season last year?
Very decent season for them. First 3 games, Northwestern State, California, who is probably worse than Northwestern State, and Buffalo. They start 3-0. They got Rutgers, then Ohio State. That's rough. But then they got Purdue. So there's at least 4. It's questionable in Nebraska. They beat Iowa. That's 5. They beat Michigan State. That's 6. They lose to Oregon. They beat Northwestern. That's 7. Then Wisconsin, a toss-up. They're going to win one of those toss-up games. I think this record that they had last year is probably pretty spot on to what we're going to see this year as well.
Okay.
Yeah, most likely will be. And plus, every year with Minnesota, I feel like towards the end of the year, every year they get more annoying. They make teams' lives a living hell. That think that they are kind of like, not like a rollover opponent, but a team you should beat, maybe by a score, maybe by 2 scores, and they just make some teams' lives miserable late in the season.
They become that major thorn in the freaking side, you know. Not a whole lot to lose, but still a competitive team that can give you a run for your money if you keep them in the game.
Yeah, essentially, it's their way of saying, well, we're not going to win. Neither the hell are you.
All right. We move on. Oh, man. The real USC, huh, Andrew? The real USC. USC Trojans, man. They win a bowl game, man. They win the Las Vegas Bowl. They beat A&M, which sucks. I wanted to see the SEC win that one. But, man, really underwhelming record, man. 1 game over 500, 7-6, and then 4-5 in the Big Ten, man. Really bad season coming off your first season after Caleb Williams goes pro, man. I think we kind of touched on this earlier. Obviously, an underwhelming season last year. Do you see any chance that USC can improve on 7 wins? If so, if not, what do y'all think?
Well, they avoid Penn State and Ohio State, so there's lucky for them. They got Missouri State, Georgia Southern, Purdue, Michigan State. They'll start 4-0, and then the hype will be there for them. And then they'll go to Illinois and take a loss. Michigan may beat them. They're 100% losing to Notre Dame. Nebraska's probably going to beat them. They'll beat Northwestern Iowa. Then they're going to get manhandled by Oregon. This looks about right. And if they lose the bowl game, they'll be 6-7.
Oof.
Yeah, it looks about right. I mean, like you said, they'll start out 4-0. Colin Cowherd will go on the herd and say how much Lincoln Riley is one of the best coaches in college football history again, like he always does. Because last year when Penn State was out there, they were up by double figures on them at halftime, and he made a video in the middle of halftime saying that we all owed Lincoln Riley an apology. How'd that work out, Slick? And like you said, I don't think they have the talent. I don't think Lincoln Riley is a guy who, like you say, he takes over a good program, doesn't build it back up after he takes it over. So this is probably what their season's going to look like. I'm going to probably slide the 6 over to the other side, and they'll be 6-7.
Okay. So we got some comments from the Pitch Grid podcast, man, saying, yo, he just wanted to give you guys a shout. You guys are awesome. And as well, he thinks that Lincoln Riley is overrated. Oh, my gosh. But this is my question. So we kind of touched on this earlier as well. If for some reason USC falls into the 7-game window or a 6-game window, how hot do you think that seat is going to be for Lincoln Riley going into that upcoming offseason? Like, do you think it's going to be like overwhelmingly hot? Do you think it's just going to turn up slightly? Do you think they're going to start calling for his job? Like, what do you guys feel like going into this year if he falls into the same boat?
It should be hotter than the Santa Monica Pier in July.
Here's reality. If they don't make a bowl game, he's fired no matter what.
Yep.
If he does make a bowl game, they keep him one more year because that buyout goes down dramatically after the next season. So I think he gets one more year unless he does not make a bowl, and then they'll bite the bullet, spend the money, and send him packing.
Yeah, man, I feel like that's realistic, man. With as much assets as you have, with the branding, notoriety, and everything we spoke on earlier, there's no excuse why you can't at least sit in anywhere between 8 and 10 wins. Like, you have the plethora of talent in the same state you're in. It's such a big freaking brand that you can go grab someone from the East Coast. You can go up north. You can go up south. You can grab damn near anybody you want with the brand that you have. So, yeah, I feel like if they underperform from this record, he's definitely out the door. I feel like they win a bowl game, he's there one more year, because obviously for the reason that you gave, they don't want to pay him all that money. USC just needs someone established that has a proven track record of building a program. A lot of people would kill to be in that market with the available assets and players you have around you, for sure. And what Pitch Grid says, I'm shocked that his butt isn't burned already. Yeah, a little bit, especially if it's anything like this year again.
They paid him too much money to let him go already is the problem.
So we move on, man. Another team that exceeded expectations, man. We got the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, man. Slightly losing in the Rate Bowl, 44-41 to K-State. Finishing the year 7-6 and 4-5 in the Big Ten. I felt like they had a better record. They just looked really good last year. Even in the games they lost, I felt like they really played up to the competition. And they exceeded my expectations. I didn't have anything good for Rutgers last year, and they played really well, man. Greg Schiano's doing really well there. Do you guys think that he can improve on 7 wins this year? Or do you guys feel like they can slack back or fall into the same boat?
First of all, let me say, if Greg Schiano was at Tennessee right now instead of Josh Heupel, I think you see Tennessee with a much better shot to win the playoff game last year. But with that being said, no. Brutal schedule. They play all 3, Oregon, Ohio State, and Penn State. They got them all.
Are any of them at home?
Yeah, for sure. They got Oregon at home, and then they go and they got Penn State at home, and they go to Ohio State. But they're not winning any of those games. They're just not there. They're probably losing to Illinois, to be honest with you. They go to Minnesota. They're probably going to lose that game. I don't see them. I think 7-6 is the best case scenario for them this year, to be honest.
Okay. Sounds about right.
Yeah, and like you said, they got the brutal schedule with all the big 3 opponents, so that's unfortunately probably 3 chalked up losses.
Easy.
And yeah, and I'll be interested to see, can they replace Manungai at running back? Because he was a big part of their success last year. He ran the ball like a freaking, and I'm literally not even an hour. I'm at less than an hour away from Rutgers from where I'm at, so definitely going to be interesting to see if they can scrape out the 7 wins. But with that schedule, I don't know how possible that is.
Yeah, it's insurmountable in my opinion.
It was good to see them good, though, because, man, they haven't really been relevant very much, like, in this century at all. They've had some good teams here and there, but nothing like to go home and brag about, you know? So, I mean, it was good to see them have a winning record. I would love to see them fall into the same one, if not win more, but when you got opponents like those 3 plus a really hungry team like Illinois, man, you're not really going to be favored in any of those games.
That's what happens when you make a good coaching hire, though. Things like this happen for your program.
So we're moving on to the Washington Huskies, man. They're coming into year 2 under their head coach, losing the Sun Bowl 35-34 to Louisville. 6-7 on the season with a 4-5 Big Ten record. I'll be honest with you, I don't see things really getting much better for Washington. Like I said, I just feel like they're one of those odd teams out. Like, when the teams came over from the Pac-12, you obviously had the ones who were really coming into a good situation, like Oregon. But then you see like UCLA and Washington. I feel like they're like the 2 guys out. And then you don't have Will Rogers, who was a good quarterback for them, and then Mississippi State before that. I hope they can finish anywhere close to this, but I don't really have high expectations for Washington this year.
Yeah, no. Washington, they're going to lose 7 games this year. They're going to fall in that same trap that Iowa has. Not the most brutal schedule, but brutal enough for talent that they don't have to overcome. I just, the Illinois is a loss. Michigan's a loss. Be honest with you, Rutgers is probably a loss. Ohio State's a loss. Washington State was really good last year. Wisconsin's probably a loss. Oregon's a loss. Bro, no hope for Washington. Give me 7 losses for them.
Oof.
Yeah, you may make the case there may be more.
You would like to see him win more, man. Washington doesn't have a bad program, but man, when DeBoer left and they lost all that talent, man, and then you're going into a conference that's obviously a step above where you were at, and then you don't even have really a great reach in recruiting compared to a lot of these other teams that you're going against. It's going to be hard for you to be able to compete at a high level with those teams, man.
Nobody wants to go to Seattle, bro.
All right, so who's our next team in our Big Ten breakdown? Oh, we got Nebraska, man, winning the Pinstripe Bowl last year over Boston College. Year one under Matt Rule, finishing 7-6 with a 3-6 Big Ten record is bad, man. Highly touted quarterback and Dylan Raiola is a true freshman. Didn't look the worst, but didn't look that great either. We already kind of spoke on where we feel Matt Rule's going to fall after this year, but do you guys feel like Nebraska can get into that 9-10 win range, or do you feel like they're kind of damned and they're not going to be able to get over the hump this year?
Bro, if Nebraska doesn't win 9 games this year, Matt Rule should be fired. Check
and they've got a great schedule.
Cincinnati. That should be a win.
Mm-hmm.
Cincinnati fell off hard when Fickle left, right? Akron, Houston Christian, Michigan. Nebraska should be better than Michigan, and it's at Nebraska. Michigan State, right? Maryland, Minnesota, Northwestern, Southern Cal, UCLA, Iowa, and then finally you get Penn State. Man, there's no reason whatsoever Nebraska, with the money they spent, the talent they have, does not win 10 games this year with that schedule. If they don't win at least 9, fire Rule.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue that. And the only, like you said, the only game they have that's hard is Penn State. It's at Penn State. There's no way you're winning that game.
Yeah, easy schedule, bro.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's already going to be an uphill battle for the season to begin with. Like I said, with the money they've spent, they have to be better. Matt Rule has to coach better. But that 7-6 record, yeah, it's not terrible. It needs to be better. But you've got to fix that 3-6 record in the Big Ten. You cannot be losing all those conference games.
With the teams they got this year, if they lose 5 Big Ten games, Matt Rule's done.
And for Nebraska to come out of pocket that much money, that means they believe in trying to get the program back to where it was at before it even left the Big 12. And I wish they would have never left the Big 12 to start with. They don't belong in the Big Ten, in my opinion. I never liked the fit. I still don't like the fit. But with a schedule like that, man, if he wants to keep his job, you need to at least win all those games they should be favored in, besides Penn State, in my opinion. Talent-wise, they've got decent talent. And if Raiola can make the development passing the ball and make less mistakes than he did last year, I don't see any reason why they don't say end where Andrew thinks they end.
Credit to Nebraska years ago for seeing college football for what it was about to become, because that was the only reason to jump to the Big Ten, because they saw the writing on the wall that you have to join one of those two or else. And they saw it early on and made the jump and ultimately destroyed their program. But they're making the money, and that's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm. Great heritage, though, man. I love old Nebraska football, nonetheless.
Tommy Frazier was robbed of a Heisman.
You're right. Ooh, and then we get into one of these, I guess you could say, bottom feeder teams that doesn't have a lot of expectations. The Michigan State Spartans, man, not looking too good, man. Finishing last year 5-7 and 3-6 in conference, man. There's not a whole lot to say. They're really in a bad spot. Talent-wise, they don't match up well with a lot of teams in the conference. Still trying to get over a lot of the stuff that happened when Mel Tucker was there. It's just not favorable for them. I would love to see them at least finish 6-6 and be able to make a bowl game. I just don't see it. What do you guys think?
I mean, they avoid Ohio State and Oregon, but they're still going to lose 8 games, so it don't matter. The program's in shambles. They were lucky to win 5 last year, and it did not get any better. Their recruiting was ass. Everybody else in the Big Ten had great recruiting classes, including your Marylands, your Minnesotas, your Rutgers, and Michigan State did not. So I say 8 losses for Michigan State, if not 9. Not a good year for them.
Yeah, they're essentially going to probably most likely could be the whipping boys of the Big Ten. Everyone's going to beat up on them.
Yeah,
agreed. And that sucks because they don't have a bad history. Like, Michigan State's had some good teams and some good athletes come through, but man, like, it's already not favorable. You're definitely the little brother in the state of Michigan. Michigan's obviously the more favorable situation to go to. then leaving everything you've gone through over the last couple of years. You're already struggling recruiting. You're not getting those big names to be able to compete. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a great year for Michigan State either.
No.
We move on to UCLA, man. So one of those teams that I said was kind of one of the odd men out coming in that Pac-12 arrangement, man. UCLA, after losing Chip Kelly year one and Deshaun Foster, finishing 5-7, 3-6 in the Big Ten. It's kind of the same song and dance, man. You're in California, you can get good talent. They just don't have it. And when you look top to bottom, offense and defensively, they just don't match up well with many of those good teams. Like Nico's got great talent, but I mean, if he couldn't get it done at Tennessee, like we said before, how are you going to be able to perform in the clutch with a lot less talent? Are you going to bring the same drama? I mean, you had a lot of things with wanting money, and you take a lot less coming to UCLA being in a worse spot than Tennessee. So how do you guys feel about UCLA coming into this season?
Bro, if they win 5 games, man, Deshaun Foster should get a raise. I mean, the talent's not there. Like it's bare. And then you got to play Utah week 1. Utah had an off year last year with all those injuries, but did you see what Utah did in the offseason? Utah is really good. They moved on from Cam Rising. They embraced the new quarterback. Utah's going to be really good. That's a loss. UNLV, we saw what they did last year. That's probably a loss for UCLA because they go to UNLV.
Yep.
Then they got New Mexico, Northwestern, but then Penn State.
Oof.
And then they beat Michigan State, and then Maryland, Indiana, Nebraska, Ohio State, USC, and then Washington in there. 5-7 again, and credit to him if he reaches that, but I don't see them making a bowl, not with that schedule, no.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Nico will come in. He should make you look better in some ways at the quarterback position, but again, they don't have the talent. And that whole thing with him and that NIL stuff, you wanted more, you end up having to take less. So, they don't have the talent.
Yeah, UCLA ain't spending no money, bro.
No.
And I love Deshaun Foster as a player. I was happy when he got the job. I just hated the circumstances of how he got the job and how the program was set when Chip Kelly left. Sam's a really big Chip Kelly fan, if you guys didn't know. But I hope he does good this year, man. I would love to see them at least win 6 games, make a bowl game. But it's going to be tough, bro. He didn't care for that comment too much.
Winning 5 games last year, man, like sometimes the record don't reflect what your coach did. Winning 5 games was huge with the talent they had and who they had to play. Let's not trip and be like UCLA should have won 10 games because no, the hell they should. He did a good coaching job last year, bro. He really did. So I believe in him.
Can't go wrong, man. And UCLA is a cool place to go too, man. It's just when you're overshadowed by USC and now you're in that conference of those big powerhouses taking all your recruits, like it's going to be hard for you to compete for sure. All right, we move on to Wisconsin, man. Wisconsin's got a really good story, man. Luke Fickell coming into year 2, hoping to make a bigger stand this year. 5 wins on the year, 5-7 with a 3-6 Big Ten record. Me personally, I think they can make a step in the right direction. I would love to see them in that 7 to 8 win range. I think Luke Fickell's a really good coach. If they can get back to the basics and not making those mistakes, especially in the worst times, I think Wisconsin could be a good team going into this year.
Here's the problem for Wisconsin. They go to Alabama.
Oof.
Out of
Shouldn't
conference.
have that one.
They go to Michigan. Boy. They play Ohio State and Oregon in back-to-back weeks.
Oof.
They go to Indiana. They play Illinois.
Oof.
Bro, that's brutal. This is a brutal-ass schedule.
That's the start. Is that in the first half of the season?
No, that's overall.
Bro, I was about to say, I'm like, dude, that was brutal. That's like Florida schedule last year. That was bad.
Well, I mean, like, bro, they have Alabama. It's just a brutal schedule, bro. Alabama, Oregon, and Penn State. No, bro. I don't have a whole lot of hopes. I think they can get to 6 wins. I think you'll see them in a bowl because I think they're a good team. But gosh, man, I wouldn't want to play that schedule. I mean, like, I have high hopes for South Carolina this year, and I would not want that schedule. I'll be real with you.
Yeah, I mean, Wisconsin, not a bad program, not a bad coach. They've got some a little bit of talent, but they don't get that schedule. That's brutal.
brutal.
They don't match up well against any of those teams. Like I think Fickle can win a lot of games just off of coaching alone, but there's only so much you can do when that talent just doesn't match up, and the talent you're going against is just that high on the totem pole compared to what you're working with. Like the margins are so slim, man. They really doesn't look too good. But I hope he exceeds expectations nonetheless. Right, we move on. Oof, yeah. There's not a whole lot. I'm pretty sure no one's going to have a crazy spill for this, man. Northwestern Wildcats, man. Last year finishing 4-8 on the season. 2-7 in conference play is horrid. Northwestern's just going to be Northwestern more times than not. It's hard for them to get those big-name players. They have good players, but just player for player-wise, it's hard for them to match up against the big top-heavy teams like Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, things like that. 4-8 is probably might even be a stretch for them this year. What do you think, Andrew?
I'm looking right now. I don't see a path to 4 wins. They go to Tulane. Tulane
That's
is a
lost.
better program.
Mhm.
Western Illinois is a win, and then they play Oregon,
Oof.
UCLA.
Okay.
They probably beat UL Monroe, but then at Penn State,
Mm-hmm.
they get Purdue.
That
I
might
think
not even be a win.
No, I don't think so. Then they go to Nebraska, to Southern Cal. They play Michigan, Minnesota, and at Illinois. I don't see a 4-win path for this team. I'm going to be honest with you. I just don't see it.
I see. That sounds like a 2-win season.
Yeah, for sure.
Bottom feeder.
I think the question is really who's going to be the whipping boy for the Big Ten, Michigan State or Northwestern?
Agreed.
The way it sounds, it feels like Northwestern might fall into that slot, man. It's not a great conference for them to be in, man. They don't ever match up well, man. Like every once in a while you see a good team here and there, but on that schedule, brother, they just don't have the talent to be able to get some wins. 4 wins would be great for them. I think it's outside of the realm of possibility, though.
I'll be
Here's
honest.
what they should do. Yeah, go ahead.
You're good.
Northwestern ain't been nothing since Darnell Autry left, and that was before you were born, maybe. But go ahead.
Well, no, I was saying maybe we should create a new bowl game for Northwestern and Michigan State, and the name of the bowl is We Just Feel Sorry.
The toilet bowl.
Hey, look, the winner can play Vanderbilt.
Oh man, yes. Oh man. You Sam, you don't know the inside joke behind that, but you will find it soon enough. Oh man.
Hilarious.
SEC champs, bro. What you mean?
That's right. 9 wins.
Diego Pavia for Heisman, bro.
For Heisman, bro.
So we move on in the Big Ten, man. We move on to the Maryland Terrapins, brother. Mike Locksley, I think he's a great coach. Or not, I wouldn't say great. I think he's a solid coach. But last year, it seemed they kind of dropped off a bit, winning 4 games, 4-8 on the season, 2-7 in the Big Ten. I took a glance at their schedule over the week. I didn't necessarily like it, and then Tua's brother is gone now. It's just, man, I don't necessarily have high hopes for Maryland. But what's their schedule looking like, Andrew?
They can make 5 if everything goes well. But Northern Illinois is not a guaranteed win. We saw them knock off Notre Dame last year. Always really good up there running the ball. Wisconsin, they're not winning that game. They could beat Washington. They're not beating Nebraska. They could beat UCLA. They're not beating Indiana. They're not beating Rutgers. They're not beating Illinois. They're not beating Michigan, and they could beat Michigan State. So 5 tops, and that's the ceiling. That the floor is 2.
Oh man.
Yeah. There's a lot of tough opponents, so I don't.
And if they fall to that Florida, Andrew said, man, that seat is going to get really uncomfortable for Mike Locksley for sure. So,
I hate it for him, but Maryland ain't that team.
He's a good coach, but, bro, they're just not in a favorable spot at all.
Nah, nobody wants to go to see, bro.
All right, we got Purdue coming into there's really no worse you can get, man. Purdue Boilermakers going 1-11 last season, really looking like prime Vanderbilt. 0-9 in the Big Ten, coming into year 1 under a new coach. How do we feel about Purdue? Do we feel like, I feel like they're kind of in the same state Mississippi State was in. All you can do is go up from here. Do we feel like they win more than a game this year? What do we think?
So, they avoid Oregon and Penn State.
Mhm.
However, all right, so they probably beat Ball State and Southern Illinois.
Okay, so that's 2 wins.
Right. And then Southern Cal is a better team than them.
Mm-hmm.
Notre Dame.
Oh, man.
Man, you avoid Penn State and Oregon and schedule Notre Dame. Illinois, they're not winning that game. They're not going on the road to Minnesota to win. They could beat Northwestern, so possible 3. They're not beating Rutgers, Michigan, Ohio State, Washington, or Indiana. So their ceiling is 3 wins. But my guess is I'm going to say 2.
Well, hey, you know what they say? When you hit rock bottom, there's only one place to go.
That's right.
So guess what? From 1 win to 2 wins is a start, I guess.
It is. It's a start. Barry Odom is a great coach. The problem for him is the talent. No matter how good a coach you are, you're not going to outcoach that talent that they have to play.
No.
That's true. Let's move on. All right. So let's move on. So we've broken down all the Big Ten teams. Who are the 2 teams that we feel like are going to be in the Big Ten title game? And who do we feel is going to be the champion of the Big Ten going into this year?
I see no other option unless Oregon can put something together. I think you're going to see Penn State and Ohio State. I think that's going to be the Big Ten championship game. It's going to be a rematch. It's really hard. I think Penn State's better. I just think they're just a little bit better right now. But if they go into Ohio State and get absolutely mollywopped, that'll be in their head. And that's what happens with teams like that when you lose big games consistently. Really, if it's a close game at Ohio State or if they win, I think they win the Big Ten title game because it gets them over that mental hump. But if they go into Ohio State and get blown out, they're going to lose again in the championship game. But as of right now, until Penn State can prove me otherwise, I think it's Ohio State's conference to win. But I do think Penn State's better.
Okay.
I agree. I think it's going to be Penn State, Ohio State. And again, for some reason, beating Ryan Day has never been James Franklin's strength. And unfortunately, Ohio State is the reigning national champions. And I find it hard for Oregon to get past either of these 2 teams. So I'll go Penn State, Ohio State, and I'll take Ohio State to win it.
Okay. So, I mean, I think it's a flush. I've got both of those teams as well. But going on to the point Andrew was making, I think Penn State gets that win in the regular season. I think they get over that mental hump. I think he finally gets that big win in the regular season. But I think going into that championship game, I think Ohio State gets the edge. They've been there. Obviously, they come off a national championship win. They know seeding is going to mean a lot. I think they changed up some of the rules with the playoff seeding. So I think Penn State gets the win in the regular season. I think they face off again in the championship game, but I'm going to give the edge to Ohio State just based off of the experience they have.
He's right there. Yeah, I mean, Ohio State just keeps proving over and over and over how good they are.
Yeah.
So we did this last week. So we kind of had this discussion of, okay, like last week we said, I think the SEC will probably get 4 teams in. I think we said the same thing last year with the SEC and the Big Ten. So if you're looking at the teams, if we're looking at how we broke them down, if you had to put 3 to 4 teams in, who do you think is going to be those playoff teams and why?
So if I had to put 4 teams in, I think the first 3 are just about as obvious as it's going to get: Oregon, Penn State, and Ohio State. But if you're looking at somebody who could really make a play, and we just saw how brutal some of the schedule. So Wisconsin's probably out, Minnesota's probably out, Southern Cal's probably out, Iowa's probably out, Michigan's probably out. It's good. Indiana had a favorable schedule, and so did Illinois. So if a 4th team had to be in there between Indiana and Illinois, and right now, Indiana probably just a little bit better than Illinois, and their schedule's a little bit easier. I don't think they're going to make it, but if I had to pick a 4th, it's definitely Indiana.
Okay.
Okay, well, again, the top three are the easy ones: Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon. There's no need to talk about how good we think those three can be. Clearly, the fourth team is easily going to be Michigan State. Just kidding. Anyway. I want to say Indiana too, but I'm going to go Illinois. I think there's just something about that team that last year, how scrappy they were, how tough they played. I think it's even with the schedule, it translates this year. I'm going to put Illinois in there if I had to.
Okay. So I would probably fall in line similar with you guys, but I'll be honest with you. When you start looking at the teams, we went through the schedules, we went through everybody. I don't think the Big Ten gets – really. Call the Breeze back up. But I'll be honest with you. Like, it'd be cool for them to get 4, but I don't necessarily think they get 4 in this year. I think it's going to be those 3. I just think they're a cut above the rest. I don't see another team being able to, like, for Indiana and Illinois to get in, they would need a lot more dominoes to fall their way, whether being in conference play or some of the other teams, whether it be from the ACC or the SEC. So I'm going to be honest with you. I don't necessarily see them getting 4. If a conference gets 4, I feel like it'll be the SEC because, like how Andrew said earlier, I feel like top to bottom, it's just a better conference and better teams overall. So if I'm just going with my gut, I think it's just going to be those 3, Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State. But if I had to give the edge to somebody, I would give the edge to Indiana just because they made it last year. Cinyetti is more comfortable coming into year 2. But I wouldn't be surprised if Illinois could give them a running for their money either.
I agree with you. I think we're only going to see 3 teams from the Big Ten. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I think they're top heavy. And I think those 3 are the top heavy, just like the Alabama, Georgia, and LSUs of the old days. I think those 3 are a lock, though. I don't think Indiana or Illinois is going to make it. But I wouldn't be shocked if they did because I'll be honest, no matter unless just like Miami comes out and goes 12-0 and Clemson goes 12-0, no other conference should have more than 1 team in. Like it should be 4 SEC and 4 Big Ten. Like because you look at like let's just say Illinois does win 9 games, but a 9-win SMU team makes it in doesn't make no fucking sense to me. Excuse my language, but I think you're going to see a random Big 12 or ACC team sneak in. I think that's what's going to happen. But once it goes to 16, all that nonsense will go away.
I hope they don't do that, man. That's freaking horrible. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, man. Like 12, okay, that's enough. Like you really have no. Like, what are we doing? Are we gonna do like March Madness? Like, if you're just gonna expand, just fully expand it. Like, why not? Let's just put the players in line to get hurt. Let's play like 50 games. Like, who cares? 4 is okay, but
I vehemently disagree. I think 16 worked for like 25 years at the FCS level, 1AA, and it was fun. You saw the teams get in. You get 4. You take 4 SEC, 4 Big 10, couple ACC, couple of Big 12, couple of random G5s like Boise State. You never know what could happen. I'm a big fan of the 16. I've been calling for 16 teams since the FCS did it in the 80s. Personally,
I don't think I'd be completely opposed to it. What I'm scared of is that they're gonna do it, and then you're gonna have that one asshat. Excuse my language. That's gonna be like, yeah, let's go to 20 or let's go to 18, and it's like, come on, dude. Like, what are we doing? Like, we don't need college to trickle into like March, April. Like, come on, bro. Like, let's get this done.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll go above 16. 16 was always the goal. They said so when they went to 4. Remember when they come out, like, our goal is to get to 16, but right now we got to start small.
They couldn't swing for the fences right away. You kind of had to build it to that point. Is what you're saying, yeah?
Correct. Because you got to get ADs on board, conferences on board. It takes time, and 16 was always the original goal.
Okay. So before we get into final thoughts, next week will be the ACC. Because we're going to do all the major conferences. So SEC, Big 10, ACC. We'll probably do the Big 12, and then we'll do a smaller conference. So last year we did the Sun Belt, but we had a vote, and we ended up saying we're going to end up covering the MAC. And probably in the same episode we do the playoffs, national championship, all that kind of stuff. But, like, if you guys had one major point to make about the ACC coming in this year, what do you guys feel like that would be?
Clemson is a top 3 team in college football. Cade Klubnik's the best quarterback in college football. It really makes me sick to my stomach to say that because I hate Clemson with a passion. I think Dabo Swinney's one of the 3 best coaches in college football. I hate it with a passion, but Clemson has everything where it needs to be. They're back to 5-star everywhere, 5-star backups. They're spending money left and right, just like the Ohio States and Georgias of the world. They finally got into the transfer portal for the first time. Dabo Swinney finally opened that up after all these years, and they killed it. I think Clemson is the cream of the crop, and I think we'll see them in the Final Four this year at least.
Okay.
I had no other point than that. It's basically Clemson and everybody else.
Correct.
How do you guys and I'm not gonna get too into the ACC, but like, how do you guys feel about Miami coming into this year with Carson Beck as their quarterback? Do you feel like they make that next step, or do you feel like they kind of fall into that same boat they did last year with Cam Ward?
I mean, Cam Ward is a better quarterback than Carson Beck until I'm proved otherwise. That's just how I feel about it.
I think it's a downgrade to me.
The problem for Miami is, all right, so they start the season with Notre Dame. Well, I mean, that's probably a loss. And then they have Florida, who has Lagway, and they're looking really, really good. They play they avoid Clemson, though. So NC State, Virginia Tech, Pitt's I can see Miami winning 10 games again for sure, just because their competition is terrible outside of Notre Dame. They avoid Clemson completely, Notre Dame and Florida, and then they should win every other game.
Yeah, like if I wasn't convinced in Carson Beck at Georgia with all that talent, why the heck would I be convinced in Miami? And like you said, they avoid all their competition except for Notre Dame.
I don't think Beck did terrible at Georgia. I think there was a lot of talent, and I think the opposing defenses confused him at times. But he's not going to have the talent level at Miami he had at Georgia, but he's going to play a lot easier competition as well, though. You're not going to have those sweltering defensive lines and cornerbacks that are running 340s at Duke, bro. Nope. Not going to happen. Much easier competition. It'll slow the game down for him.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong with that. So we're getting the final thoughts. Starting with Andrew, you got any final thoughts? And where can everybody find you?
College Sports Villains, Facebook, College Sports Villains 1, YouTube, at USC Fan 981 on X, TikTok, all that. My final thoughts is my boy told me it was time. Now that he's come here, it's a fun show. I love the Big Ten. Always been a Big Ten fan. Love to watch it. ACC. I'm a college football fan, so I can get down on any of it. I follow it meticulously. Ohio State, Penn State, Georgia, Texas, and Clemson. That's my final thoughts. Those are the elite teams in the country this year.
Okay. So what are your final thoughts, Sam, and where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Facebook and on Spotify at 609 Sports Talk, and you can find us on YouTube at 609 Sports. My final thoughts is we end the season. Penn State's #1 team in the country.
Can't go wrong with that, man. Before we know it, man, we're about to be in July. Before we know it, college football is right back, man. College football is going to be right back, and shortly thereafter, the NFL is going to be right back as well. You guys, don't forget, make sure to check out College Sports Villains. Make sure to check out the Villains Media Network as well. And, man, check out 609 Sports Talk. They got some really cool stuff on there as well. We love keeping a plethora of really awesome people to come in and have these awesome discussions, debates, because who doesn't like to debate about football? We can talk football every day, 24 hours a day. You can't ever go wrong. If you guys do like this kind of content, make sure to like the video, follow, subscribe. Make sure to check us out on all major platforms: YouTube, TikTok, X, Twitch, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon for all of you audio people. And if you are on Facebook, if you are on YouTube, hit the bell notification so you never miss a beat, man. Whether we're going live like this, we do pack openings every Monday now. We do live game streams. We have shorts, and obviously every Sunday around 8 p.m. Eastern time. Like I said before, make sure to check out 609 Sports. Make sure to check out College Sports Villains, as well as all the awesome shows on the Villains Media Network. And we'll be back here same time next week doing a deep dive breakdown of the ACC. It was really fun. Pleasure having you guys on here for sure.
Appreciate it.
And prayers out to Cam and his family. They're kind of dealing with a loss of his grandfather, so he needed to take the night off and kind of help settle everything, help take a break. Everybody needs a mental break from time to time. So prayers for him and his family. And I really appreciate you guys stepping in and helping us tonight. Really means a lot.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Cool deal. And like I said, check us out every Sunday live, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Check us out next week for the ACC. College football is like a month and a half or so away. The NFL's 2 months away. Then we'll be locked and loaded and ready to go. I hope you guys enjoyed, and y'all have an awesome day. Let's see. Oh, shit. Here we go. Have a great day, guys.